Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Pryce, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the second volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys Adaptation of Warhammer 40k's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Ryan LaPlante and players Tom McGee as Interrogator Nero Abagnale, Laura Elizabeth as Piper Fairley, Tyler Hewitt as Seth Corbyn, and Borovic as Sister Olianne Mina. My report shows that, having made amends for the murder of a servant, the Inquisitorial band have attempted to regain some measure of esteem. After participating in the traditional pre-dinner hunt, meeting the 3 gubernatorial candidates, and making some initial contacts with mixed success, dinner is served. How will the guests react to 2 of the band being expected to consume their human kills? Find out next, in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From an audio recording stolen from the lab of Fabius Bile. There is nothing deeper than blood and bone. We are meat, and what comes after is meat, nothing more. You are all sitting at the grand feast in the Citadel at the center of the Dominion Omnium Protohive. You're all being served what you had killed, the unexpected consequence of the Delectamenti Mortem, which means for 2 of your party, as the meals are revealed, you have a cooked human body set before you. You can see at the tables around you, there are people watching, you a lot more than them, because they were fully aware of the consequences. Even Perez is looking down. And when you look up at the front table, you can see Graswald Gazi Cologne has stood up from where he was seated and is very rudely leaning over the table to watch what will happen with these bodies. Seth, you realize you're being fed the servant that you killed, which is why they said your kill was already complete. And Piper, you're now realizing why so many of those teenagers were trying to get each other to be brave enough to do this, because you're being fed the prisoner that you executed. What do you do?
Piper just looks around to the table and says, "Waste not, want not," right? And picks up a knife and fork.
Which part of the dead person do you eat? I have to ask for the sake of my brain, but I don't want to.
I think I'll start with the thigh.
And then everyone looks from Piper, where now they're wincing a little bit, and they turn to look at Seth, who seemed more murdery.
Is this like a pile of person on a plate, or is it like Sushi Girl, like just a person laid out in front of me?
It is Sushi Girl, only the skin has been removed. So you're looking at all of the exposed muscle. Okay. And you can see like the teeth and where the bone is poking through within that. They have been braised. It smells weirdly good, which you don't like, I imagine, depending on your feelings about cannibalism. I can't really assign that, but...
Yeah. I don't like it, but it is familiar, given that... My primary role is to infiltrate heretical cults. This is probably the nicest form of cannibalism I've had to undertake for a cover. So very pleased to have a knife and fork. I dig in.
Pleased to have a knife and fork this time.
Yeah.
Your table mates are clearly uncomfortable. Chasener Bo-Katan is horrified, but watching this happen, I think KB basically has a bunch of flowers that have been lightly braised on a plate because he killed a plant and managed to argue that for himself. So he's doing the vegetarian equivalent. The rest of the table begin not so much eating with 2 people eating human bodies. They can't do it. The rest of the ballroom kind of settles into their meals. And up front at the front table, Gaz is going, "Well, I can't believe they actually did it. I was wondering, but this is fucked up. Get him out of here." And he gestures, and just a bunch of his security guards in the Spire Guard uniforms come over and just kind of manhandle your whole party away from this table.
Sorry, can I, as we get pulled up, I'll just lean over to Pedas and just say, just a casual reminder, we'll always call your bluff. And then I just wink at him and get pulled away.
Oh, that'll stick with him. So you're all being kind of like wrestled out of the chamber forcefully by a collection of guards. Clearly so many that fighting would be an incredibly bad idea. The ones dealing with you directly are just carrying truncheons, but you're seeing the collection behind them. There are a large number of, probably a squad of 10 guys and gals in their uniforms carrying ornate last locks. What you recognize of those weapons is they're basically ultra-charged last rifles. Only they're one shot, and then basically they need their own new magazine put in. It's kind of a hot shot every time. Not ideal for street fighting or traditional military use, but plenty good at blowing away groups of people who are being held. So you're marched down a hallway and shoved into a large elevator along with the security. They put a key in. You don't get a lot of ideas of the details in it, but it takes 2 security officers on either side, both of their helms slightly more ornate, suggesting they're of some importance, putting their keys in and just turning them. And then they punch in a code, hiding it with their bodies. You can see a number pad, but you don't see what the number pad key code is. And the elevator begins to clank upwards. It's still elaborate and quite fancily decorated, but you get the feeling that this is probably some sort of employee version of it. There's likely a sexier one somewhere that Gazzy and Rancid themselves use along with their high-ranking officials. You ascend over time. No one is saying anything to you. Do you try to say anything to the people surrounding you?
No.
Yeah, I got no interest in that.
These aren't the
No,
people
we're-
to talk to.
No.
Yeah.
Great. You continue upwards. After probably 4 minutes, I think 4 or 5 minutes feels right for the speed that this is going. The elevator door opens and you step out and are guided out into a space full of mirrors. You can't actually see the floor or the ground. It's all mirrors, left to right, top to bottom, canted at different angles, like a fun house. I think for you all, it might be a carnival attraction or other things, but the guards are walking through it very confidently. And as you go, you become lost. You realize there are different security officers behind corners and around turns. There are gun servitors. Clearly, this is an elaborate death trap for anyone who was trying to come up here in any sort of hostile manner.
Ryan,
yes.
would Piper become lost?
Piper, I think you would be aware of the space, but I think there would also be side dampeners and other things in case someone came through with a psyker. I don't think you have the same sense of dissolution that the others do, which is every room is the same. I think you have a sense of forward and back, which the others might not, but that's really all you can get.
That's it.
You couldn't find your way through this without a great deal of effort and trial and error. You would be better than the rest, but not, you don't get a walk in the park.
Shucks. Okay.
Yeah. Takes another 4 minutes for you to get through this winding path. By the time you're done, you're not actually sure how much space you went through. It could be only 100 feet deep with weird winding patterns. They could have doubled back, but with all the mirrors and other things, it's tough for you to tell. When you come out the other side, you end up in a boardroom. There's one large central table. There are 4 entrances that come in, 2 from the sides and 2 from the back. They all seem functional, unlike the doors and other things lower down. These are not quite as gothic. They're simple wooden-looking doors in a traditional kind of iron-banded way, hammered together. It feels like this is probably a chamber that is used for functional purposes as opposed to the showy purposes that you had seen down below and through the rest of the hive. The 4 of you are still in your shackles, and you're lined up along with Warden, so 5 technically, but nobody really gives a shit about him. They wired his sword into its holster so that he can't do anything with it. And you just wait. You stand in silence with the security officers standing around you with their last locks at the ready for another half hour before anything happens, just silent and uncomfortably waiting. At which point, one of the back doors cracks open and Gazzy Cologne himself walks in his ridiculous outfit. And he looks at all of you and he says, "Excellent, you're here." And you realize he's standing differently. He doesn't have the sauntering around him. He's stone cold sober, and he's looking at all of you with appraising eyes. And he walks forward to the table, and he pulls back a chair that is on his side, and he gestures to the door behind him, and 4 more servants come in and set 4 chairs along the boardroom table opposite him. And he says, sit. And the guards will gesture you forward so you can all sit in the chairs. They're plush, they're comfortable, they've got armrests. Weirdly enough, your shackles are at a good height where you can kind of sit comfortably with the armrests or rest them on the table. And Gazzy says, you probably have questions. Let's get those out of the way.
Why are we the ones asking questions right now?
Well, I find when you're beginning a partnership, it's always better to get things out of the way. I could try to guess what's going to freak you out the most right now, and we're going to have to get out of the way, but it's easier to just ask you, and then I'll tell you what I need, and then we can either form an alliance or something more dangerous.
Right. And I think weekly, like Corbyn is like blown away by this guy's ruse and kind of ability to drop in and out of a completely different kind of manner. So I think with an air of futility, he just like looks over to Nero, is like, Master, would you like to ask the questions?
And I'll just kind of shrug. Also, I'm loving this chair. Like this is definitely a Nero friendly chair. I'll say, Sarah, I believe you have us at a bit of a disadvantage. We're merely here to broker a deal. I gotta say, Pedas has been a wonderful guide. But your customs here are a little stranger than what we're used to, and I fear we may have overstepped, but it would seem that perhaps not as far as we thought. So I think the immediate question for me, of course, is when can we get these shackles off? Because I'm all for partnerships, but I'm also all for freedom, and I'll just like rattle my chains a little bit.
Nice. Can you roll me a subterfuge? Or actually, what is your subterfuge score? I think that would make more sense.
It is
Subterfuge.
Do you mean skullduggery, sir?
Oh, sorry, skullduggery, yes.
I have a hot 0 in skullduggery.
Fair enough.
Again, very confident, not actually very good at any of these things. So for skullduggery, I will be rolling with my cunning, which is 3.
Cunning, which is 3. Okay, so I'm actually going to roll this. I was using your score to make an opposed check for him to see through your ruse of being most fancy trading executive. He is very observant. However, you will give him a difficulty of 3 because your cunning is at 3. I'm going to give him a boost because Seth spoke before you, even though clearly Seth is not the most important person in the party.
I would actually like to argue for an additional boost to him because Nero is attempting this. There's not a lot of equity or weight in this ploy. He's sticking with it because it's what they've set up, but it's not kind of like I'm the face and I got to make sure we pull this off. It's kind of like if you're just going to accept this at face value, amazing, and if not, we'll deal with that. So I actually think that puts them at a worse die roll because on our side, because like he's not good at it, capable at it, skilled at it, or even trying that hard at it.
Yeah, that all actually checks out just fine with me. Let me just confirm his skills. Cool. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, he looks at you and says, clearly you're not some sort of Prometheum Combine. You're here with your own purposes. My guess is some kind of intelligence agency, probably loyalist. I had people look at your things inside your room. Couldn't crack some of your encryption. Impressive. But you didn't have anything in any sort of numbers or sigils that would be incredibly problematic from a security standpoint. I will take those shackles. And he gestures to his security and waves them forwards. And they all take your shackles off where you sit. Still, 4 of them stay with their last locks. I guess 5 of them stay with their last locks aimed at you. The rest kind of fuck off. It's just enough that he's got the upper hand in this conversation, but he's clearly more comfortable now that this is more of a full conversation. You're here for an unknown reason, probably to assure loyalty, probably to check in on the tithes. Do you want to volunteer a reason, or should I just continue guessing?
I'll All right. I'll open the slot on my arm and I'll say, listen, I tell you what, you spit in this hole. And if this little guy goes green, I'll tell you everything you want to know. This little guy doesn't go green, then you can just keep guessing. And you mentioned more dangerous things, right? That's when the more dangerous things happen.
Is this a gene analyzer, I'm guessing? You got the printer, smaller version?
Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable, but you get used to it. It's real sweaty. No one tells you that, but I got to tell you, it's pretty swampy in there. So yeah, I just got to verify your identity before I can really share any of the trade secrets. And, a loyalist would, of course, want to serve the Empire. Am I right?
Oh, you don't have to argue with me about that. The only problem is that's not going to take spit. You're going to need blood or hair, and my hair's gone. And he just takes out a knife and slashes his own finger, and he'll drop blood into your printer.
Great. Well, fair enough. And I'll close it, and then like a magic 8-ball, I'll just twist my wrist a bunch, and then check.
The diamond glows green. This does match the familial line. This does match what you would expect from Gazi Cologne.
So I'll just hold up the gauntlet and be like, well, hey, look at that. Oh, that's real good. Okay, well, good news, sir, is you're absolutely correct. We are a form of loyalist enforcement, but of the more, how should I put this? And I'll just pull out the rosette and be like, inquisitorial kind. So you can stop guessing, but for all of our benefit, I think it would also be useful if you started talking.
Okay. Well, luckily I have nothing to hide, so I'm happy to make whatever you need available and put the meager forces that I have under your control. This is going to be an uncomfortable moment for you, where I have to ask for your help to save the planet and the system, and thus the things that rely on it. I am Graswald Cologne, as you know. As you've seen, I appear to be an absolutely insane person in public because my father has been collapsing for approximately 2 decades. Someone needed to keep the tithes going. I am the reason that those are being paid for. However, there is only so much power I can hang on to for so long, and this alignment has broken the power structure that I had built. The money's out. I'm hanging on to this by the skin of my teeth. The Promethean builds are happening, and the houses are winning. The houses were going to take this no matter what, so I found a legal excuse to set up a competition I hoped I could rig. I don't have any allies left. I brought you up here in the hopes that you would have an interest in stabilizing this system and making sure that the Prometheum shipments are made on time for the Emperor on an ongoing basis. You've seen the guilds. They're a nightmare. There's House Marcus, which will run us into the ground, and House Vance, who can't see past tomorrow. House Bane is the only house that has any hope of allowing this system to survive and hit its tithes for the next decade, if not the next century. I am allowed to participate because of a legal loophole in the coming competitions, and I am allowed to name my own champions moving forwards. I had not expected you to be the Inquisition. That is a pleasant surprise. However, you're the only people I know who can't be bought by one of the houses, especially now. I would like to name you my champions, where you can sneak around and do what you need to do and stay hidden out and compete on my behalf, either to win, which will spite everyone and mean theoretically I could choose a victor, or to defeat the other 2 houses and allow House Bane to achieve some sort of stability for this world. That was what I wanted. However, you are of the Inquisition, so the bigger question is, what do you want?
And I'll shoot Mina a quick glance in kind of a don't fuck this up for us, don't fuck this up for us, don't fuck this up for us. And I'll turn back and just say, as lofty as, and I'll start twiddling the rosette again, as is my way. As lofty as this sigil often is viewed, sometimes even we must make sure that the prom must flow, So this seems a reasonable course of action to us. We will, of course, require your assistance when and where we can. But as you probably gathered from us not coming to you immediately, we've got some other concerns about the planet and safety and security. Inquisition, level concerns. So I think we can safely say that this course of action will benefit both of us. That said, I am going to need you to talk both to my spy master, Seth here, but also I'm sure Sister Mina is going to need to clear some things with you. And I kind of like look to all the guards and I'm like, how trustworthy are these lot?
Absolutely trustworthy, he says. And he presses, he like reaches under the desk and you can feel him pressing a button. And gun servitors open up with heavy stubbers from within the maze and cut down the 4 people behind you. At which point he says, not at all. Everyone can be bought. I am very glad you didn't come here openly. I couldn't keep it quiet.
Fantastic. I was going to order them to shoot themselves to prove their allegiance. So this is great. Hail the Emperor. So thank you for that. That's great. We've got some concerns about security, not just in terms of the people here, but also some of the deeper things. My associate Piper here, her handler isn't just for show. She can see what others cannot. And I imagine if you're short on allies, you're probably pretty short on astropaths as well. So she's got some questions for you as well. I'm going to turn things over to them, but rest assured that they speak with the Emperor's voice, as do I, as does the Inquisition. So please be as forthcoming as you can. And after that, Ghazi will be very happy to help you win your tournament because, again, mutually beneficial agreements are what the Imperium is all about. And if we can't trust those closest to us, and then he just kind of stops and his face falls and he says, well, I mean, that's how you get a heresy, right? If you can't trust those closest to you, because if you do, sometimes you're closest.
Olianne's like, well,
Tom, sorry, before Olianne jumps in, can you roll me, I'll go with interrogation because we've gone with that as your, like, I know how to manipulate people skill. Sure. Can you roll that for me at difficulty 3? I just want to know how actually scared Ghazi becomes over the course of this conversation, because he feels pretty bulletproof because he knows he's not doing heretical things, but still lots of threats to friends.
What difficulty, bud?
Difficulty 3.
Cool. What's our story point system looking like?
You have 3, I have 2.
All right, I'm going to burn one of those.
Okay.
This is a fairly important sequence. And yeah, this is fine. We're all fine here. Yo, 1 success, 2 advantage.
All right. Yeah, I think you can see he's a little rattled by the treatment that you've been giving him. So he'll be extra forthcoming in a nervousy kind of way for everyone else. But Sister Mina, you had just interrupted taking over from the never-ending trail of threats.
Yes. So she's just kind of going to step in and then stand up and be like, we would certainly appreciate if you could hand over any of your technology, or obviously you've been checking on our hotel room.
Correct. We didn't place any new bugs after the ones you removed. Your stuff is still there. I just had people go through it. I couldn't afford asking you or bringing you on board with me if you were some kind of insurgent force or outside influence from one of the houses, so I had to eliminate that. It wasn't personal.
Well, now it is personal, and we're going to need a new Vox transmitter.
Done. Had one actually ready to go. And he actually gets up and leaves the room. You're realizing he doesn't want to bring servants in here who he then has to execute. So he brings back a Voxcaster for you guys. It's the same backpack setup, only nicer. And you can see it has a layer of encryption over it on a specific channel and he's like, yes, this will actually let you check in with me as needs be. I can't always respond right away, though I will endeavor to, but that will be a straight through hard line to me, encrypted so no other house has access to it. Otherwise, every channel should work.
She's going to just take that and sit back down and keep an eye on Nero and kind of let the other two say their piece.
Seth will say, I assume someone in your position has a rather substantial file or dossier on each of these candidates. Is that correct?
Yes, I have as much politically compromising material as possible, along with a list of the things I'm actively doing to try to subvert them.
We will need access to that information, as well as the information you use to vet House Bane, why you think Bane is one of the strongest houses. We want this to end as amicably as you do, Cologne, but we will need to decide whether your conclusions are in line with the Empire's best interests.
Perfectly reasonable. I'll transmit that to your Voxcaster so you can download it the moment you're clear of this site. I don't have physical copies of it. Unless you want that, that might take me a few hours.
If the Voxcaster's lines are secure, as you say, then that should be fine.
I haven't been assassinated yet, so I have to assume that they are, because if anyone knew what I had just told you, I would be dead. There's a reason I have to pretend to be a drunken cyberite at all times in public.
I'm going to run my hands back through my hair, still muttering to myself, and just kind of lean forward and say, hey, while you're at it, I'm glad you bring that up. I'm going to need a list of all the enhancements you got, because it seems you guys love changing your bodies, and just need to confirm a few things. So if we could just get those, and a list of any modifications have been done to your opponents, that would be excellent. I know you can implant new biological material into yourselves. We just need to be certain that you aren't implanting anything into your mind. We need to be sure that you, and I'll actually lean across the table and poke him in the head. Just be like, that you in there are who you say you are, right? That we're all in here who we say we are. So going to need those lists. Isn't that right, Seth? I'll just sit back and kind of cross my arms and look at Seth.
Yes.
Gazzy is sweating, missing this lack of cohesion in the team. He's just feeling the heat. I can give you everything you want about me. I don't actually have access to the records of what's been carried out on the other house leaders of the merited adoptees. That's kept. There's some with the Arbites to allow them to track things if crimes are taking place, or there's some with the Mechanicus, two groups not known for tremendously wanting to share it with the planetary governor. I could attempt to requisition them. There would be a flag on that.
Yeah, so no, I'm shaking my head, being like, no, that's how they find out that you're after it. They're Gazzy, that's how they figure it out. So no, I don't want you to requisition it. I just want it. So I will find it instead. We will find it instead. We are very good at finding things. Fuck! And then I'll just stand up and take a little walk around the back behind my chair.
Okay, and you have questions? And he just looks to Piper, clearly sweating bullets, just kind of his hands open, palmed against the table, just making it clear, I don't have a gun and I'm not going to move. I will answer questions.
Yeah, so I had a chance to eat your chief astropath. Lovely man. But I would like access to another one. They're just things that two astropaths can do that one can't. And we need to do long range community. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I just want, honestly, an astropath or any other psyker you got going around here who's on the level, not your chief astropath, to be clear.
I can give you access to the astropathic choir using a series of codes, so you could message them. I don't have the ability to send one down to spend time with you without them being tracked by their caller, and I can't decaller an astropath unless they're dead. So you could fake the death of an astropath. We get rid of the caller, and you take them. That's possible.
No, it's fine. I honestly don't even need to take them with us. Hold on. I just need to have a chat. Don't need them for very long.
The astropathic choir is currently in a space station over Falsche Frieden, because that's where the majority of our intergalactic travel takes place from. So if I can give you the codes and they'll allow you to land and you can talk with whoever you want, but there are not on this surface.
Really? None? Everyone's so scared of us. I don't get it. All right. Yeah, well, why not? I mean, might as well have them.
I'll include it in the package I'm sending.
Ryan, does Seth have any awareness of how these explosive collars work?
Seth's current caller, they go off when triggered, so it's a choice. It seems like it's more on if the astropath runs or if the astropath starts attacking people, that it can be actively sent out, but it doesn't seem passive unless they tried to remove it.
I guess my question is, can it be disarmed, or is it like, I put this on you and you're dead, and this switch decides when that happens?
I think it would have the disarmability. There's clearly enough of them that
okay.
If they're using it for prisoners and things like that, they have to have put it on, take it off, that kind of thing.
Since I was arrested by the Spire guard, they would be his guard.
Yes.
So Seth will say, take this off. And I'll just gesture to his collar.
Yes, absolutely yes. He takes his kind of bleeding finger and just touches the commands, and you realize his genes are apparently built into a lot of the tech, so he can just overwhelm things by touch. Your collar comes off. He could reach down, and the manacles do the same thing. They're magnicles. They're the techier version of manacles.
Nice.
And they come off as well, so you're freed, and the threat is removed from exploding. So you seem to have the information you need. Should I tell you about what's coming up with the event tomorrow that we kind of need you to interfere with? Or is that something that you're just going to kind of put together on your own and I'll send you files?
No, we'll need that information as well. Our Inquisition into this world, it involves this process, but there is more on our plate than you know.
Okay, I'll put together like a one-pager that'll just have all you need on what you need to do to affect tomorrow, and then you can figure out your own priorities. Do you want to stay in the Bolter Express? I do have enough coin, and I play crazy enough that I could probably just buy that building, and no one will expect anything. And I could say I just ejected you from the world and send a ground car back to your ship. If you send it up to orbit, everyone will think you're gone for cannibalism. Or honestly, just displeasing me. They really think I'm nuts. And then you can kind of stay there, or do you want to go somewhere else?
Yes, we will need new covers. It would be best if we were, and he puts up like air quotes now that his hands are free, killed or, as you say, banished from the surface.
Well, then. And he just takes out a data slate and taps about 3 buttons. And he's like, and you've been banished. And 2 of you died before we kicked you off world. And the others have been sent off with your ship, along with an endless contract of banishment as well. So don't worry, your fake combine won't be able to deal here again. That'll seem pretty convincing. Are you happy staying at the Bolter Express? I'm just trying to gauge your level of concern versus what I can do for you.
The staff saw us there, and I always worry because once you see something, you remember it, right? And they remember us, at least they think they do, right? So if we could mess with that a little bit, I think if we could remove that element of it without necessarily needing to, and I'll just like look at Piper and do a weird like Professor X gesture, like without that would be ideal. We need somewhere new and safe. And we need information too about who we are if we're if we're doing this competition for you. So Seth has something to work with, something good, something that isn't us. We have to make sure we're doing this right in the name of the Emperor, in the name of the Imperium, in the name of the Imperium. It's important,
Excellent. I'll just make a couple of quick changes for you. And he's got his data slate out, and you just see him tap furiously and move some things around. And then you hear like a ding, and he spits on the thing, and you hear a cha-ching. And he's like, great, I have bought the Bolter Express. All of the staff have been transferred here to the Citadel. I've hired a cleaning person and one other person, both from within the Spire Guard, but paid more. So I know that they're not under house payment currently. Anything else?
Yes, you will have seized the goods in our rooms, and then you will have them brought here, yes?
Well, I mean, I could just leave them in your rooms if you're going back to your rooms. Nobody's going to know, and I assume you don't want people to see your stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, if we want to sum up the rest of the conversation, like the Bolter Express will be your building. There's going to be like a security doorman so it doesn't look weird, and there'll be like a maid of some kind if you need someone to like run an errand or do room service. That's about it. There's going to be no other staff and no other guests. He promises not to put any comms in it. Like you essentially have a stable home base, barring influence what he doesn't know about. But at this time, he's done everything in his power, and you can review the paperwork. He'll probably show it to you all to be very emphatic about please don't kill me. I'm a very good person. Save my fucking system. But it all checks out. Everything looks legit. And from the best of your knowledge, it should be a very covert thing. The Bolter Express wasn't a super expensive hotel. It was just one of many in this area. And from the name, you could tell the crazy guy who owned it is probably going to have a very nice payday somewhere and go live on a moon or something.
Right, okay.
For 3 generations until they strip mine that moon to nothing. And then, of course, we'll be moved back here and then probably die.
Absolutely. They've already stripped most of the asteroid field in this system, so who knows? Cool. Is there anything else you need? I feel like you're good. I've called you a limo car, just thinking ahead. But up to you. I'll fire the driver. You can drive yourselves. It's your call.
I'll look to the rest of my companions somewhat manically.
Yes, that'll be fine. Just get us back to the hotel.
Wonderful, wonderful. Please come this way. I have a much better elevator that leads to a back entrance no one's aware of. And he walks you through one of the back doors, and there is a beautifully filigreed golden doored elevator that he just gestures you inside of. He uses his finger that's still a little bit bloody. He like licks the scab off that's forming and just taps the button so that you can use it. You realize this one is definitely gene sequenced to himself and his father to be able to get to their floor without having to go through the security precautions. And you will clunk back down to the floor. It opens out to a hallway that has been cleared of security. Clearly, he is organized and doesn't at least want to waste the lives of people who might see you. And when you go outside, there is an unremarkable ground car. He didn't give you the limo, but probably because that would stand out. You just have kind of like a simple Torok-style armored vehicle. It wouldn't stand out on the roads, but it's clearly pretty hardy. And there is no driver. The keys are in the ignition and it is running, but you can drive yourselves. You will all fit in the cab to get where you need to go. I'm assuming you head back to the hotel. I just want to leave you some options.
Yeah, Olianne will definitely leave him with just like the Imperium appreciates your assistance with this.
And I'll like nod heartily and grasp him by the wrist in classic like warrior wrist grab. And I'll say, yes, Sister Mina, it couldn't be more correct. The Confederacy thanks you for your efforts. You're a true servant of the Emperor. I'll slap him on the shoulder.
The Confederacy
of Man, yes, the Imperium of Man thanks you. You know what we all serve.
Absolutely. The Confederacy Imperium of Man. Gotcha. I'm with you.
Yeah. The Confederacy, the Imperium of the Confederacy of Imperium of Man. The Imperium Confederacy of, and I just like start mumbling as I get in the
and
elevator.
Olianne's gonna grab him and be like, yes, and then take him to the car. Like, get in the back, weirdo.
And I'll just point back up over the car and be like, we're trusting you. We're trusting you.
And I am trustworthy, he says, backing away with both hands raised. So he's worried you think he's going to pull a gun as the doors close in front of him. So you drive back to the Bolter Express. It's an uneventful trip. When you arrive, there's just the one guy waiting in the front. And he's like, you got that room, right?
That's right. Yes.
Whatever. And he just waves you past. Clearly he took like a very low performing employee who barely pays attention to you.
I like shake my head and I'm like, now this is what I'm talking about. This is what we need.
You have the same weird stick one-armed skull servitor gets you back up to your rooms. When you arrive, everything is just as you'd left it. If he hadn't told you that he had sent people in here to look, you would legitimately have no idea. And it is the nighttime. It is the night before the next day. You have a chance to review your documents, but the first thing that comes through at the top of everyone's data slates that you would be looking at, some of you have your own, some of you it would come through the Voxcaster. The idea would be that the Voxcaster could be used to kind of like plug in and just, it can take documents in the same way that like a fax could come through. So the first thing to come through is the one pager, and then just tons and tons and tons of political and spy information. And he's basically giving you the entire planetary governor's worth of political history of probably the last 5,000 years, even though you guys really only care about the last 20. But you scared the governor enough that he's just like, you don't need to ask for more. You have it already. Please leave me alone. But the thing you now learned that you have to affect tomorrow is a gladiator games. Bloodsport has become common in this system and in many imperial systems, mainly because the citizens lead dull, repetitive, violent, and cheap lives. So the idea of watching a traditional sport when you yourself are risking death in the mines or in the prom fields every day doesn't really get people as excited to watch someone chase a ball. Whereas the idea that watching people battle to the death gets people's blood pumping in a different way, because they can always look at it and go, well, at least I didn't have to fight the giant saurian monster. So the first of the 3 challenges that comes through is tomorrow, each House representative and Ghazi are all getting to submit their own team to what is essentially a battle to survive the longest in the ring. There are 4 combatants that are allowed to be fielded in any individual fight. The 4 combatants will be put into 4 small arenas. This will be televised and sent out through the Office of Propagandists, the Adeptus Propagandus. I invented it, but I feel like there should be media in this world, so I'm calling it the Adeptus Propagandus. So it will be broadcast throughout the system, because with the one capital world being built right now and its continual movement, being the governor of Inannis Umbra is not the same as in other systems where each world would have the same layer of governor. It ends up being almost a system governor, because each time a world has been abandoned, the governorship was no longer valuable. So it's been reclaimed by the Cologne family so many times that now it's sitting here. Once you are all put into those 4 arenas, there will be waves of combatants coming at you. The same combatants being released into each arena, continuing onwards until a team is entirely dead or their sponsor has thrown in the white towel and said, essentially, I surrender. The other 3 houses have their own champions. You do not know who. You do not know the teams that they are going to be submitting. And you now have the honor or privilege or chore or responsibility of representing essentially the house of gladiators that will be fielded by the House of Cologne. So you may be the combatants yourselves. You may find a gladiator team because there are pros around if you want to function more as coaches. The options are limitless for how you want to influence or affect that. That is your tomorrow task. So you have tonight to prepare. At the same time, you have your task of figuring out who is homo novus among the candidates. So I will say each of you gets to do one thing tonight to work towards either of your causes. The only person who has one dedicated at this point is Nero. You actually have an appointment with Ignatius Ironforth, which technically your character has been banished off world, but it will take a while for that news to filter down. So you think you could safely make that visit and then fuck off if you need to.
Yeah. He and I are buds. Like,
yes.
Also, Nero might not be too concerned about espionage right now as he kind of stalks around the room.
Correct. And I will also say, with the sheer amount of documents you have coming in, you can make a call to Abacus in addition to the 4 of you to have him deep dive for information before you, if you want to do that before or as a task. Think of him as a floating 5th info dump. Right. So Nero has his task chosen out. What does everyone else want to do?
Well, I think it's become pretty glaring now that Nero is going through something that is affecting him. Seth, having shot a man on a gambit, knows he's not in the position to question Nero's decision-making on a mission. So I think he will discreetly approach Mina and Piper and say, both of or one of you two needs to speak to Nero about his strange behavior. And I don't know if it needs to happen tonight, but it should happen soon before it gets us into more trouble.
Yes, it's obviously not getting better on its own.
Right.
I can't contain him.
I'm not going to be the one to speak to him. I know I made some bad calls tonight as well. It's the old... some holdovers from being undercover in a cult. However they prepared that human, though, was all right.
All right, Olianne's leaving. Once he says that, she's bye. She's going to go talk to Nero. She's just like, turnabout, goodbye.
I think Seth would like to call Abacus and jointly pour over this information, if that's doable.
Yeah, I think that's totally doable. I'll say while Seth is doing that, we've got Olianne talking to Nero. Piper, what are you doing in this interim? Or are you staying to have the conversation with Abacus, which would also be fine?
I'm trying to decide. I think I'm going to hold off contacting the Astropathic Choir until later, until we have a bit more information. I think until we get closer to the candidates and more interaction with them, because I don't kind of want to waste a communication with their resources when I don't know exactly what question I want to ask. So I think I'll basically just team up with Seth.
Great.
And listen to what Abacus has to say.
Let's do the Abacus call first, and then we'll go have the conversation between Olianne and Nero, and then we can choose everybody's activities after that. So we'll have our kind of debrief little moment here. So, Seth, you and Piper turn on your new Vox. You know the channel to go over to. It's got some levels of encryption on it that you're comfortable with. It seems like it'll hold up. Basically, with this unit, someone would have to know that you were transmitting directly to a secret channel to your ship. And no one is going to be actively, like, the odds are that 1 in a million if someone might randomly flip a channel by accident, but the odds of that happening in the VIP section are minimal. They had other bugs and you've taken those out now. So Abacus just comes on and he's like, hey, so you got a lot of info of some kind, I guess.
Yes, information on each of the 3 houses. It is investigation, dirt, these sorts of things conducted by House Cologne. I'm looking for, well, anything you think would be noteworthy, but in particular, the onset of Homo Nova. That's it. That's not it, is it?
Homo Novus.
Homo Novus. Perhaps any new players suddenly on the scene, or an existing member of one of the houses suddenly becoming more powerful, wiser, more capable. These sorts of things. If Bile's creations are to be as dangerous as we assume, they should be significantly improved compared to standard folk as you and I.
All right, just a second. You sent me a lot of paperwork, so this might take me a minute here. Okay, I'm through it all. So let's do a roll to see what can be learned on this. What skills do you think you two would use in terms of your request for this? Because I want to use your skills as well as anything else.
I look at my base stats, right? Brawn, agility, intellect, cunning, willpower. I think intellect for absorbing and parsing information.
Okay.
But when I look at the skills, intellect really falls into Medicae and tech use only.
What is your intellect score?
My intellect is 4.
4. Okay. Yeah, that would fall into... Okay, and what's your intellect, Piper?
Mine is 3. I was also thinking of using intellect, but kind of a bit differently.
Okay. What's your skullduggery score? Seth?
The rank in skullduggery?
Yeah.
It's actually 0.
Oh, interesting.
His cunning is 5.
What's your streetwise?
Streetwise is 1.
Okay, and what skill were you thinking of using with intellect, Laura?
I was thinking because I'm looking for anything basically that is adjacent to anything that I know about Fabius Bile, and I think it would probably be a forbidden lore check that I'd be doing.
How many ranks do you have in that?
1.
Okay, we'll do a combined roll here. Tyler, because you were the first person to want to make the call and Piper was joining in a little more passively, I'll let you roll it. I'm going to give you a combined intellect of 5 because that is, I think, as high as you can get as a PC. So we'll just say we add yours together for that. And we will combine your ranks in Streetwise and in Forbidden Lore. So you'll have 2 yellows with that. The difficulty with this, I'm going to make it 2. Just because you have all the files and you're filtering through Abacus. So the more you can theoretically file through him, the faster it'll go. I will give you 1 setback because he can get distracted into minutia for getting the information through to you. But I will give you a bonus because you can actually pretty quickly filter out several thousand years worth of information and focus on what you need in like the last probably 20.
Right. Okay. All right, then we have a pool put together here.
I am going to upgrade the difficulty on this one. So I will use a story point to make one of those a red.
Okay.
Okay.
Piper, anything else?
I don't think that. No. I honestly think that's it.
Okay. I'm going to roll. Holy shit. What a spread. Well, mostly positive, but then hang on. 2 successes, 1 advantage, 1 triumph, 1 despair.
Oh,
I'm just going to make a note of these so I can remember.
I was using intellect to be clear.
Don't worry, I'm never going to perils you on asking someone a question. It's always going to be clear when you're risking melting.
Please don't make blood rain from the sky. We don't need that right now.
Hey, what's for dinner tonight? Chaos. Like, oh no!
All right, I'm going to say for your triumph and your 2 success and advantage, I'm going to give you guys each 2 questions you can ask. And I will answer them because you did good and what is in the records is there. For the despair, there will be limitations that might not otherwise have appeared. So you're going to get what you can out of these files, but they're governor files and he can only include intelligence he has.
Okay. 2 questions?
2 questions.
And since this is like over the course of like us doing research, I'm not going to ask it as Seth. I'm just
No. Honestly, we can probably do this efficiently, and you can just ask, and I'll just answer, and we'll assume you did it in character for the sake of time. Otherwise, it'll be the learning episode, which we don't need.
I guess I'm looking for any sort of outlier individuals, high performing, charismatic, intellectual, powerful, anyone who is kind of above and beyond everyone else's kind of estimation, if that makes sense. Just kind of highlighted people. Because we don't know much about Homo Novus, just that it is like the new human and they are infiltrating society.
Correct.
So they must be better if this is the new path that humanity's on.
One of the challenges you find within the records, because they are detailed on the rise and fall in terms of promotions and political ranks within the House, because the governor would have to track this really actively. You also have the access to what the Cologne family has done over the last couple of decades to hundreds of years. But specifically, the last kind of decade or 2 would be the most interest to you, because that's probably when, otherwise Bile would be inserting somebody who'd be quite old. And you probably would have heard about this earlier based on the intelligence you've received and checking in with Abacus. It's like, no, this was in the last couple of years. This wasn't like a long con. What you find is there aren't actually that many top performers. It appears the Cologne family's strategy, which was very clever, which was kill all the top performers. Just set up mining accidents, set up prom explosions. They would organize failing ships. They actually had some shady deals with Nero Skullshield, who is the rogue trader that was present. He was also present at the dinner. You just did chat with him, but you'd heard about him. He has taken out ships by being told places on their delivery routes to just go in with his freighter and kind of eliminate targets. The only few who seem to be top performers are the three that you have seen that are in position for the governorship. Your level of paranoia is pretty functional. Lucia Bane seems like she's legitimately capable, and her house goals seem to be relatively straight up based on the research and based on the internal communiques you can see. It appears that Gazzy was actually just shielding her within the house to make sure she was the one to rise to power. When you look back, you can see a few more assassination heavy or money hungry people who were kind of coming up with her. And he eliminated the dangerously ambitious ones to try to keep someone who was a relative moral center in power in that house. The other two, again, these are all very quick ascents in the recent history, like 2 or 3 years is where these lives really began in any sort of public way. So you can't prove whether or not the records are false, but they're recent. The other two, Krungus and Roberto, appear to be kind of brutish, aggressive, ultra dangerous characters who've risen through basically survival of the fittest and a willingness to be nastier than their opponents. They don't seem to inspire a lot of loyalty. They are smarter than you would have guessed based on those speeches. You think they are playing to their own crowds in the way that Gazzy is making himself look harmless. They're making themselves look more belligerent. They're clearly quite clever. However, they're also lightning rises to glory, and they've managed to survive. What you can see with all the information was clearly a trend of like the tall poppies getting lopped off. So there is a possibility that this is all an act, as now you've seen they're more than capable of it on this planet, where they're like, oh, if I do really good, I get eliminated. So if they were homo novus, in any case, a homo novus could be pretending to be virtuous in the case of Lucia Bane, or they could have pretended to be a dumb guy to survive the pattern of assassinations and rise to the top.
And they could have been all three.
Yes. So all three, you can't rule it out based on personal history or any of those files.
Okay.
That was question 1.
Yeah.
I can do one if you want.
Yeah, please do.
I think I'm looking for, knowing what I know of Fabius Bile's MO, I'm looking for anything that might be kind of passed off as illness or someone kind of just like pushed aside, kind of quietly taken out of existence or the public eye, that might be some sort of marker in any of the families of the influences of Bile's kind of chaotic mark, as it were.
I mean, this is going to be tremendously frustrating for you, but in the history of this world and these houses, disappearances, assassinations, and other things are more than common. You know the ones now that have been caused by the governor's house. Like you can narrow down Gazzy's targets because he has explicit records on all of them, and he's included shit that like if you released this, it definitely would get him killed by all 3 houses put together. Clearly, there's a lot of trust from him in your team. However, you don't have access to all of the house's files. If you could get access like you have to this of the other 3 houses' files, you could figure out who was killed by outside parties.
Yeah.
But right now you're dealing with like mercenaries, assassinations, a house war, and a number of guild and financial interests from outside the system. So there's nobody who sticks out as like, oh, this was a chaos killing. But that's the annoying thing about Bile and Homo Novus is they're not warp. Like they're not people who summon demons. They're not people who buy into those rituals. It's much more cold and logical.
All right.
Aren't despairs fun where you get information and then it doesn't help?
You were correct. I was frustrated. I am.
I guess my second question would be, Roberto and Krungus, they seem to be at least surface level, like very direct. And we understand that there's the potential for subterfuge there. But I didn't get an idea of Lucia's MO, how she carries herself, that kind of thing. I guess my second question would be just a bit more of a deep dive on her as a person, whereas it seems like Roberto and Krungus, at the very least, present a certain kind of person. With Lucia, I didn't get a strong sense one way or another, other than like unity of the world, of the system, which is very aspirational. But how does she do things?
Lucia, from what you can see of the records, appears to be pretty straightforward in her dealings. She is smart enough to allow other people to step in. She tends not to negotiate her own contracts. She doesn't try to run her own military forces. Like, she knows her weaknesses, where she can put other kind of more bloodthirsty or other more competitively minded people in charge. What you can't tell, and what Graswald couldn't tell, despite his voluminous research, and he decided either answer was okay, is whether she's building up her coffers and being very smart in an attempt to get herself and her house off system and build something else in the future, or whether she's trying to actually save the system. There's a kind of a 50-50 coin flip either way. It appears it's probably, if your gut says, and what his gut says from his personal notes and having dealt with her, she seems like she might just actually be kind of the white knight that's very rare, a person who is born to power, who wants to do the right thing because she believes responsibility is the right thing. But even Graswald's like, I can't really believe that about anybody, because everybody's
Seth
a shithole.
Absolutely doesn't believe that about her, is the thing. Yeah.
He thinks there's probably a lot of underseated ruthlessness there that's really about keeping herself alive, knowing with rejuvenate treatments, because she's relatively young, that she'll need to build an empire elsewhere. So this is probably a stepping stone, but she's the one most likely to hit the tithes and keep the system functioning, and actually have a plan for using some of the population afterwards. So Ghazi considers that a net win. He's like, if he can save 10% of the people of the system because they're useful elsewhere, that's better than giving it to other people, just run it into the ground.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Yeah, that second question.
Oh my goodness.
If you don't have one, you could always throw to the other members of the party.
Yeah, I'm willing to throw
with you.
I mean, I feel like Nero's pretty fucked up about the idea of like a pure and great, person in power, because there was one. His name was Horus, and the emperor loved him more than the rest of his sons. And look where that got us. So I think he's instead just kind of like rubbing his temples. I don't think he's much help in this.
Yeah, and I feel like Olianne is not even thinking about all of the background knowledge stuff going on. So there's bigger problems right now within our group happening here.
It's me.
Yeah.
Hi.
I think Abacus is like, I'll just see what I can find for you later if you don't have anything right now. Like, don't worry about it. You don't have to. There's a lot of paperwork.
I mean, just one question. Like, is there anything that could suggest that Graswald is going to double cross us?
He's a planetary governor who has been successfully playing three houses off against each other during a civil war, so he clearly has the ability. But he's never missed a tithe. He's never missed a tithe, and he hits his deliveries when they are imperially certified pretty regularly. If they're not, I mean, fuck whoever made those deals, according to him, because I've watched him bury businesses that way. But it seems like he's loyal to the Imperium.
And I'll, after Abby finishes that, I'm going to run over and lean into the Vox coder and just say kind of overly loudly, like I do often to my my little like Google Home devices. I'll just say like, you hear that, trusted ally? You hear that? We all agree that you're you're a loyal member of the Imperium. So with whatever you're using to listen to this Vox coder you gave us, we trust you. You hear that? Even our spaceman. Our spaceman librarian trusts you, so don't fuck us, okay? All right, great. All right, I believe in you.
Okay, goodbye. Abacus hangs up, not really asking questions. I think at this point, Seth and Piper, you've got time to go review your notes to like solidify what you've just learned. And we've got Sister Mina. You have Nero just having assumed people are spying in a Voxcaster.
She's just gonna wait until they're both alone. And the other two have walked out, and she's going to be just like, sir, excuse me if I speak plainly, but we need you. This team needs you. You see what happens when you let Seth make decisions.
Run the hands back through the hair. He knows.
I may not be a priest, but I certainly am here to listen to you, to listen to what lays heavy on your heart. What is going on?
And I'll eye you pretty, like, Nero gives Mina a very, very kind of like naked look of distrust, but also there you can see a bit of the sort of pleading for something to hold on to. And he'll say, one of the things I've always really respected about you, Mina, is you believe. I mean, I know Piper. She just feels it, and that's fine. And Seth knows what needs to be done, so he just does that. But you believe in what you're saying and what you're doing in the Emperor in his golden throne, in the mission of the Inquisition. And I'm not too proud to say I've used that against you a few times, and it will admittedly do so again. But how do you know? What's at the heart of that? How do you know that what we're doing is just, that the Imperium is right, that we're actually serving it?
She just sighs and shakes her head, and she's like, you know, by doing, as long as you keep moving forward, as long as you keep obeying the Inquisitor and the Emperor, his light will shine upon you, and none of your actions can be wrong. So you are already the Emperor's chosen. You already talk with his voice. All you need to do is keep moving forward. Don't lose faith in yourself, because the Emperor has faith in you.
Nero will burst into tears, but it's an abrupt, aggressive cry. Like, this isn't like relief or absolution. It's Mina, you wouldn't have done any interrogations, right? Back
No.
back in the
She has, okay, so she's seen things. To be in the Adeptus Sororitas, you have to be skilled in everything. They teach you every single version of everything, and then you get picked to be one. So she's probably done test stuff, but like
sure,
not out on the field.
Gotcha. Okay, so the main reason I ask is, like, this seems almost more like the tears of like bitter resignation than of absolution. But after a couple like chest heaving sobs, Nero just kind of wipes his eyes and says, you are of course right. You're all not always, often right. We have to just keep doing in the name of the cause. So yeah, all right. Thank you. That was helpful. That was not necessarily what I wanted to hear, but probably what I needed to hear, and that can sometimes be as useful. Yeah, if you could just keep an eye on not just me, but all of us here. I think you've got the clearest vision of any of us, and we're going to need those clear eyes, I think, in the coming days. And then I'll lean in and just say, because the eye of Horus is upon us now, as in all things, but here in this place. They said the heresy ended. It never ended. This is just the big play. This is the next step, This is the next move. We got to stop it here and now, or we're all doomed. The Emperor is doomed. The Confederacy is doomed. We got to stop it now, or else everything the Imperium stands for will burn.
And Mina, when you look down at Nero, you see a broken man, clearly looking for hope, clearly looking for a future, someone that you can save from the darkness. And Nero, when you look up, you see Mina's face covered in blood while a church burns around her, and a giant symbol of the Eye of Horus hangs on the wall behind her.
And I'll just slowly grin and say, yeah, that.
A recorded musing of Fabius Bile to himself. The better angels of our nature are long since drowned. Nero, you have just had a bit of a breakdown, seeing the blood-soaked face of your friend and the Eye of Horus behind her. It quickly flashed away. And Mina, I'm imagining you would say something to try to comfort him as he panics and looks up at you. So I would love to hear the tack you go with for the desperate interrogator on his knees.
She's definitely going to try to like physically comfort him the best that she can. And finds herself uncharacteristically at a loss for words, but is mostly just like, physically holding him. And
is this
like,
the mom hug where he's on his knees and you're still standing, or are you getting down to his level? Or
yeah, like the mom hug, her arms around his shoulders up above, kind of, and like really, really giving him a good hug though, because she's a strong lady. So, but she's still sort of just reeling from the reaction that he gave.
Yes. That would be intense. I think I will have you roll me a charm check.
Yes, I can do that.
Which is presence based.
Yeah.
Nero, what is your willpower?
I'm glad you asked, Ryan. It's 2.
Perfect. It'll be difficulty 2 because you're trying to comfort him. So I'm making this a socially opposed check.
Did you say 2?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a bonus because I think he really wants to be comforted. And I'm going to give you a setback because you were a part of his recent hallucination.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that'll happen. Okay. Sometimes that's the way it goes.
Yep,
that'll happen.
I've been part of people's hallucinations many times.
Okay, I think I got you presents. Okay. All right.
And right now, the story points, you have 3 and I have 2.
No, let's just see how this shakes out.
Oh, I see. I'm not good enough for your story points, huh?
Hey, look.
That's good to know. No, it's cool.
Look,
it's cool.
She is very charming, so you're in good hands. So
saving the story points for when we need to put you down.
That's right. All right.
Start
I've got 2 green, 1 yellow, 2 purple, 1 blue, and 1 black.
Correct.
Though I think, if this matters, I have devotional iconography, so I have boost to any charm tests with loyalists.
Then yes, this would absolutely count. So add another boost.
2 boosts. There you go.
Nice.
Okay.
Be charmed. All right. Let's see. Dang it. I got it. It's doing that thing again. The bad roller. All right. Bad roller.
It wants us to know this tension. That's just a little bit of a warp getting in while you're trying to figure out what to say. This represents your speechlessness. You're just relying on
it's true. It's like totally the status thing is right now. She's like, oh no. Internally, she's thinking like, I may have to talk to Seth about this, which is like the worst. Worst thought possible right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, your fallback would be you did get a card from Missionary Vicar Estevez,
yes,
who you could call if you needed spiritual advice.
I know. Now it's becoming a who does trust, because this was her most trustworthy person. So now it's already gone to heck. Okay. Oh no! Seriously, that's what I just rolled 2 threats. That's it.
2 threats.
2 threats.
Okay.
Oh boy.
It's not a complete failure. He does, feel a little better. I think you lean forward and as you're hugging me, looks up, and there's no longer the Eye of Horus. There's no longer the burning around it. However, Nero, every kind of third blink, she is still crying blood. Like it's there, it goes away, and then it pops back in that like creepy horror movie kind of Shudder way. But if you don't look at her, you feel like you can keep it together. I feel like you probably know.
Who said anything about keeping it together, buddy?
Oh, I mean, I guess relatively. I feel like you don't have to do kneeling and crying, but
fair enough.
There is that ongoing threat.
Right.
Unfortunately, the work of the Inquisition waits for no person's breakdown, which means you're all now ending up back in the central space, knowing you have a few brief hours to take actions to help you with tomorrow's events. There is a challenge inherent in this, which is you have gladiator games and you have your overarching mission to identify and defeat whoever is homo novus of the candidates. Due to the time constraints, you will have to decide whether your action, each of you will have your own. We can combine them in terms of if 2 people are going to the same neighborhood, that's great, but everyone kind of has their own contribution. It is easiest if you decide yourselves to be the gladiators. You might have to talk Warden into fighting so that you can get your team of 4. That would allow you to focus kind of all of your efforts on bile or identifying genetic templates, trying to make allies. But that puts all of you in harm's way in the gladiator games on day one of the competition. So those are your competing factors of mission versus
I mean,
ease.
everyone except Piper, right? I don't think anyone thinks she's going to fight.
I mean, everyone needs a distraction. You're so friendly that the other gladiators are going to feel real bad about trying to stomp you. And we know Warden will fight extra hard. So, like,
No.
I think one of the thoughts, that's a possibility. The other thing is each gladiator team is probably run by an owner. You'd all be familiar with the general blood games. There'd be kind of a coach or owner of the gladiators. So there is the opportunity to kind of assign Piper or whoever you please as the coach, who might have the ability to do some behind the scenes things while the games are going on where people are distracted.
yeah, for the record, entirely kidding. No, Piper, we're in no way putting you in a martial combat scenario. Like, look,
Cool.
I may be, seeing weeping blood. I'm obviously not saying this out loud, but
I'll
just
be
me as
in the
Tom.
I'll be
Keep
in
you
the
out of there.
corner. I'll be in the corner with a bucket and a towel, and it'll all be good.
Perfect.
I mean, as far as you know, it's not chess boxing, but it could turn out to be chess boxing one round. Who knows?
Yep. And
I
obviously,
say let's carry out these conversations in character, but I think it's a fun
okay.
way for you all to figure out what you're going to do with your own strengths. You have the run of the city. You can call down because the front desk now works for you. You have access to cars. I will say you only have one rosette of the Inquisition, which is currently
sense.
with Nero. It is the only proof that you are actually working with the Inquisition. So it can be passed from him to someone else if there's someone on a mission where you want it, but only one of you can play the Inquisition card with incontrovertible proof.
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, I feel like Nero wants that pretty bad for his conversation with our dear Magus biologist fella.
Ignatius Ironforth.
Yes, thank you. I hadn't flipped over my sheet correctly, but we got it now. So Nero would want to keep that, I think, but he'll just kind of like do that quick, like, I've been crying, like, for lack of a better term, the parental post cry, where just like quickly wipes his eyes off and just gives thumb up with like tear stained hand, slaps Mina on the shoulder and says, yeah, that was a good chat. Thank you. So inspirational, truly. And then like I'll just look at you like weeping blood and be like, great. This is great. Hey everybody. So sorry about that. A little agitated, a lot going on here. But I'm I got a pretty important date a bit later to try and figure out which of these folks we met earlier might be, a Homo Novus monster. So I'm thinking I go handle that. And I got to tell you, I don't have a lot of insight on the gladiator sitch. What are you guys thinking about that?
Well, I'm personally not too keen to join in on the fighting myself. Olianne, are you looking to get your hands dirty, or shall we take a step back and perhaps, I don't know, hire out some muscle?
I'm willing to do whatever it takes. If you need me to be there on the forefront, certainly I have my shield and sword. If not, I can make myself useful elsewhere.
Right. Good. I'm suspicious of Lucia Bain. I think she's too clean, too aspirational. I don't buy that that's solely her game. And there's not much dirt on her, as it would seem. She appears to distance herself from any of her weaknesses. So she's shrewd and tactical, quite smart. I would be keen to see if we can infiltrate or get a closer look at the way she runs her house.
Well, I mean, wait, so what are you suggesting? Like we get close to her, like fight her? And they like, hey, like literally get close, or just like not fight and like, oh, we're gonna like break into your house?
Well, the candidates choose champions for the gladiatorial battle, so if we get in on the gladiatorial fight, we won't have any face-to-face time with her, but perhaps if we select champions, or if we offer our services, we may be able to
be brought into her house.
Ooh.
You do have permission from Gazzy, knowing that he wants Lucia to win. You don't have to beat her. So there is a possibility that you could approach saying that you're working for the governor and kind of play them against each other in a way that would make him and you happy anyways. That's definitely on the table. There'll also be time, theoretically, during the games to send people to either wander around, to visit the other arenas. And if you've got your own fighters, there probably are some kind of, imagine the sporting events where there's like the weigh-in and the photographs, and there's probably some kind of, brunch of some obnoxious, wealthy hive sort where you'll all have a nice meal, but you can also check out who the competition are. It could be that you want to find your own team. Some of you could want to maybe sabotage another team. Again, it's a pretty open field. I think looking into House Bane of some way is a very interesting choice for Seth. So I think that's a great call.
Yeah, Nero will nod. Also being kind of aware that he's on his back foot a bit, that, the outburst has likely raised their alarms a little bit. You can see he's like actively trying to be helpful in kind of a, hey, yeah, that was weird. Anyway, let's all move on as fast as possible kind of way. But he'll nod and say, Seth, I think you're onto something there. This whole place doesn't strike me as somewhere where good people thrive. What with the whole, eat what you kill, maybe there's a human option. Oh, but we're against that. But are we kind of thing? So I'm inclined to agree. I don't trust Lucia Bane at all. Not that I think we should trust any of these folks, but I think that's a wise decision. And admittedly, since we are working with the governor in kind of her benefit, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go talk. But I'm inclined to agree. I think unless Sister Mina really wants to get in there, and then maybe we could see about just adding her to a team. I don't think the rest of us should risk it. I mean, Seth, you already lost a finger today, and I know that was pretty rough on you. So to go straight from that into a pitched battle doesn't seem like a very good call.
Yes, I'm not interested in a pitch battle with all of my fingers.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah.
And how about you then, Nero? Do you need to, I don't know, is there a bloodletting that you need to do to kind of get your groove back? What exactly is going
bloodletting,
on there?
It's funny you choose that term. Bloodletting actually kind of helped. And I'll like wink at Sister Mina. Fully staring at blood on her face, but obviously you're not feeling it.
She looks very confused by that.
But I'll turn back and say, yeah, no. Look, I feel like I owe y'all a bit of an apology for that. It's something about the just, I don't know, over the past little while, just haven't quite been feeling myself. I think it might just be a lingering effect of the hypno casks. I don't know, but ever since our mission on Traven, just some things aren't sitting quite right for me, I guess, and I'm just trying to sort them out. And unfortunately, this place really seems to push a lot of those buttons. So, no, I'm eyes on the prize. We gotta serve the Imperium of man, and so that's what we'll do. But I do want to warn you all that, again, I can't stress this enough. With the presence of one who was present for the heresy in all of this, we can't fail, and we got to be so careful. So on that note, I'm going to keep the rosette, if that's cool with you all, because I think I've got a pretty good use for it with Ignatius. But I'm curious to hear if any of you need it more, because I also have a gun. So, every so often the gun is kind of it's a rosette in and of itself,
We all have guns, Nero. What's your plan with Ignatius?
Well, we need access to those genetic files, right, in order to figure out who Homo Novus is. And unfortunately, it seems to me, looking at all those folks up there on the stage, any one of them could be, a genetically engineered super monster. But also, this whole place, all the rich folks seem to have. I mean, just look at Pettis, right? Like the odds, I think, of us encountering these genetically engineered Homo Novus fellows around, it's high. So, I don't wear this for the fashion because, quite frankly, I think it's god awful. And I'll point at my gauntlet, and I'll be like, but do wear it for function, and we need to be certain about some things before we start pulling specific triggers. And I'll like look at Mina, and I'll say, and I know Piper can offer us some of that by digging around inside people's minds, but I'm just worried about what might already be imprinted there, right? I mean, how do any of us really know with technology like what we've seen, what's real? So I want to get those samples one way or another. I'm planning on, we have a good rapport going, and if he's willing to just share out of curiosity, fantastic. If not, I bet he'll be willing to share with the Inquisition. And if not, I bet his genetic code will be willing to share with whatever scanners are in there in order to open up the information, which is where the gun comes in.
Well, it sounds like you have it all figured out.
I'm just taking a page out of your book, Seth, just get in there, get the answers any way possible, right?
I think Piper and Sister Mina, you've both been politely watching them have this weird conversation, but several times Nero has just spoken about how, Piper will just reach into people's minds. And, Mina, you know how you love blood. I feel like with them having hashed their bit out, you both kind of have to dive into volunteer. Like, I think I'm going to do this just to label what your actual tasks are. So where do you guys think you're at?
Well, I mean, to be clear, like, I'm not going into anyone's mind, like, right now. Like, honestly, like, if I go into someone's mind, like, we're all fucked.
Right, the cultists, right?
Well,
Right.
and also
like, they'll just know, like, they'll know who I
am.
am. Like, they'll, like, fucking come after me.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
all of you by extension.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but, like, I'm not going to be useful in that capacity for the time being.
Piper, could you roll me, let's say, do you have a knowledge of some kind of imperial
I have
society?
scholastic lore and forbidden lore. That's... I mean, I could just do a common lore check if you want.
No, let's go with forbidden lore. That feels right to me.
Okay.
Difficulty... I'm going to say 1, but I'm going to spend a story point to update that die, to upgrade it to a red, just because I don't want to give it to you totally for free. I want there to be some risk in this, but
Right. This isn't a check about the warp, is it?
Face.
I'm gonna say no on this.
Shucks.
This one's more just general societal knowledge. I will give you 1 boost because I think this would be, if it comes to you, it would seem self-evident.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I'll roll.
I'm just looking forward to the future instances of like, hey, rolling to find street food. I mean, street food exists in the warp. So I'm just saying, maybe a warp check to find the best hot dog stand.
Oh my God, street food is people.
No. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, it only works for forbidden and scholastic lore checks, but 3 successes and 3 advantages.
Awesome. You are pretty sure that if you went to the Arbite and spoke to Chastener Bo-Katan, who you'd seen at the dinner, being an astropath, you're relatively important as an asset. And if you were sensing cults, he could give you info on if they were present, who's present, what to watch out for. So you could confirm your feeling or confirm whether or not it's true in a more tactical sense if you wanted to.
All right. And I think I'll say, Seth, I saw you talking to, were you talking to the Chastener Bo-Katan?
Yes.
You got some kind of rapport going with him, no?
I would not call it a rapport, no.
All right, so maybe that's something that I should do without you. I'm just thinking, I go to him, like, we get another, like, someone on our side to be like, oh yeah, fucking cultists are bad.
Yes, as long as you go under the pretense of a different identity. He watched us both eat a person.
Oh shit, that's true.
Right.
So I'm going to have to go as a different astropath, even though I just learned, well, shit, that we got like basically one astropath on the planet, and the rest
many
are
faces.
Oh dear Lord.
Of the Empire at our disposal. And he'll just gesture to like our case of varying like outfits and like prosthetics and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's the size of, there are almost 4 wardrobes that have been wheeled in. They're portable, but they're big enough. It's almost a walk-in closet for each of you in terms of outfits.
Yeah, I actually have disguise kit in like my gear.
Perfect.
So I can conceal my true identity. Which basically okay. I have something for this. So, so maybe like I should just like approach him as like someone who's come from like somewhere else to warn him. Maybe I should take the rosette.
Well, Nero, that would leave the gun then.
Yeah. I mean, certainly an option. I guess my question is, what do we need more right now? Do we need the genetic info on all of the candidates? We could get that from the Arbites as well, as Gazzy told us. So, we've got options here. I'm just curious who we think we've got better odds with. I mean, Seth, it sounds like you had a pretty bad time with the Arbites. But I mean, Piper, you bring up a pretty good point. No one likes cultists, right?
I mean, why not? Do we just do one then the other?
We only have time I think we got to hit all these at the same time, or else we're at Gladiator or Clock, unless we're not actively involved in the games. If someone else is managing our team, and I like kind of like look to Seth, but then turn to look to Sister Mina, and then like look to Warden, and then just catch myself in the mirror, and I'm like, probably me. If someone else is running the Gladiator games, then maybe you could slip away. Since I mean, forgive me if I'm overstepping here, Piper, but I don't really think you're going to want to be too involved closely in that. Am I right?
Well, I think that goes without saying.
Okay, then I won't say it. So here's what I'm thinking. Why don't I go talk to Ignatius tonight? I'll take the rosette. We'll see where we can get. If I strike out and, if I waste too much of his genetic material with the gunshot wound, if we get to that, then our only chance will be the Arbites. But if we try and do them both at the same time and we only have one rosette and both of them need the rosette, then I think we're kind of pooched. So does that work for you, Piper, do you think? We'll just split it up. Once we get the Gladiator game up and going, you can sneak away, go talk to the Arbites, take the rosette with you, get it all going?
I mean, I suppose. I kind of want to get this done tonight. Like,
all right,
the sooner the better.
Great. You know what? I'll shoot the geneticist. It's fine. I just take the rosette out and throw it on the table. I'm like, it's fine. I'll use my natural inborn charm and my gun.
Nero, perhaps I should go with you in case that ends up being an issue.
Fantastic. Who needs a gun when you have a Mina? And then I still put the gun together and holster it.
Fabulous. So Mina, knowing you're going with Nero to prevent him, I don't know, just shooting the entire Adeptus Mechanicus, what is your plan? It seems like no one else is working on the Gladiator games angle tonight, which means at this point, you're kind of stuck with it. So how are you going to combine that with this trip to the Adeptus Mechanicus?
Man,
I know being the sanest party member could be a real problem.
Yeah, it's a toughie. So I think, man, I don't know if I can even do this. She definitely would try to figure out, I guess, hiring some people. But I also feel like Mina is so disturbed by everything that has gone on. I don't feel like she's sleeping tonight. That's like, maybe that will make her fucked for tomorrow. But like, I think she's just going to stay up all night and try and figure shit out and pray a lot because it's not a good time right now. So she's going to help with Nero. And then when she gets back, I guess she has to make some calls about trying to get together a team. She's also going to be like, Warden, do whatever you can in the meantime. You got to bleep bloop some people, see what you can do. It's like we're left with the rope at this point. So
fabulous. Out of the corner of your eye, you do see a blinking light on the encoded Voxcaster that was given to you by House Cologne. Do you go over and answer it?
Yes. Well, they're all talking, I guess. The most exasperated. Hello?
Yes, this is the governor. Well, I mean, the governor's son. We don't need to step into this. Basically, there was something that was just rammed through in terms of the rulings over these games. But each of the merit adoptees and myself are allowed to call in one favor from one of the various divisions of Imperial servants over the course of the games. So if there's something where you need somebody to just take care of a problem for you, you kind of get one gimme as a helper.
Oh.
So if you need a favor, you can go to the Mechanicus, just drop my name. If you give them this code, and he just gives you it's a series of binary that you can put on your slate. But if you plug it into any of those, it's like Administratum, Mercantile, whatever you need. Show them that, and they'll be required to help you. You get to use one over the course of the 3 games.
Oh, well, that is wonderful. Emperor bless.
Great. Good luck. I've got to go try to keep this whole thing. What are you doing over there? I don't know. And you just hear him hang up, clearly having to jump. She
back reels from the sudden change of.
I will draw my pistol and point it at the Voxcaster when I see her reel away, and just hold, and then I realize there aren't spooky voices coming out of it, and just very slowly, while glaring at it, put the gun back in my holster.
Oh boy.
So it sounds like we have coherent plans for everyone. Seth is going to try to infiltrate, or at least find out more about House Bane, and specifically Lucia Bane. Piper, you are heading towards the Arbites Fortress Precinct in the hope of getting to chat with Chastener Bo-Katan. You have the Rosette to be able to swing around, so that's there. And then we have Nero and Mina, who are approaching the Adeptus Mechanicus to talk with Ignatius Ironforth, and maybe or maybe not use the code Mina now has to call in favors for the Gladiator games. Or save for later. Maybe Guns and Words can do it. It's the classic Words, Guns, Rosette. It's the rock, paper, scissors of the Inquisition. You call downstairs and a new voice picks up. It's not the kind of distant, confused, didn't give a shit guy that you'd seen at the front desk who'd been hired. It's a smaller voice of a woman. She sounds a little mousy, you would imagine. You've never seen her. She can't see you. It's a very traditional kind of phone setup. It's so quaint for 40K to just have old pearl-handled kind of twist style phones, but that's it. And she's just like, yes, hello, I'm Eve Nuln. Happy to assist you however you need. I can clean your quarters, but only when requested. That was made very clear to me by the governor. Yes, you need 3 cars. Is this true? I'm sorry.
Hey, yeah. Sorry, I'm just really thrown off by how fancy this phone is. This is a thing of beauty. Hey, what's your name, by the way?
My name is Eve Nuln. Eve Nuln.
Eve Nuln. Hey, good to meet you, Eve. Listen, we're gonna need 3 of your cars, and of course, as I'm sure you've already been briefed, we don't like to make our presence here too known. So if you could just kind of keep this between us, Eve, that'd be much appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. I have some cousins I can have do the driving. I can keep the payment off the books so no one will know. Very trustworthy. I'm very trustworthy. Don't worry, I won't take my blindfold off. No one will see anything in this whole building. I'll figure it out.
Oh, that's great, Eve. I'd hate to have to learn another name. So yeah, that's great. 3 cars, much appreciated. Appreciate you. Thanks. And I'll just hang up.
Wonderful. So you can all, I'm imagining you switch back to your own gear. Are you switching into new costumes? What's your vibe for your jaunt about town?
Well, Olianne is definitely putting her whole armor and everything back on, and then just the big cloak. So she's got armor, sword, shield, everything, in case shit goes sideways.
Nice. For your cloak, religion out or religion in? Religion in still.
Great. We're spooky mode.
Yeah, you'd seen enough armed people on the streets that carrying your weapons would not be out of place from what you've seen of the proto.
And I feel like the way that she carries her weapons is that she Ninja Turtles it. So she's got a big shield on her back, so she just looks big. Like you can't tell that the shape is shieldy, but with the cloak on, at a glance, you're not going to see a weapon on her hip or anything, because the sword and the shield are also like made to go together. So I feel like the sword just goes in the shield back there, and then she's just there.
Piper?
I think what I'll do is I'll use my disguise kit to basically, I have kind of like I got a pair of pants that will like let me hide my bionic leg, which I'm not generally concerned about. Like
it's not out of place. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I have like dyes and things available. So I think I will do just like a basic, like kind of like a basic dye job on my hair and just like make it like kind of like a dirty brown, like dirty middle brown that just no one would notice.
Yep.
And I think I will, and I've got like vocal augmenters too. So I think I'll just make my voice like a little bit lower in the hopes that, yeah. I did a lot of talking, I kind of realized when we were like at the dinner, and yeah, I'm just like, oh shit, I just got to change as much as possible. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And then just like a white kind of cape over everything.
Cool. Are you doing anything with your eyes, or are you just going to play an astropath?
No, because I'm going to play an astropath.
Perfect.
So that I can keep.
Seth, are you wearing anything in particular? You're dressed as an Amasek stained red Imperial servant.
That shit is like he's throwing that like outfit like on the floor just because the whole fucking night. And he's into his sort of like regular operation clothes. So he's wearing his armor with the big coat over it. And he's going to basically come to Lucia as Seth Corbyn, but with the backstory of he's a political fixer, and he's going to help ensure that she wins this campaign, and that he basically is coming now because the governor's son sees her as the best potential candidate. So a lot of truth in it, but coming from not like an inquisitor or anything like that. He's a fixer, so he's here to basically help her out.
So you were sent by the governor to help fix. Yeah. Okay. I will say that'll be a very strong cover story for you with all the info you have on the governor. You have access to every one of his private codes, so you don't have to like forge a document that says the governor's sending me. You basically can put his signature and seal on anything that you need. So and that's definitely doable.
I would want to carry in as like proof of my credentials some material that he has already kind of investigated her. Basically, I just want to take his hard work and pretend like it's mine and say like, well, I've already discovered this, this, and this about you in my own research, and you didn't know I existed, and now here I am.
Yeah, I'd say your room has a server in like a servo scrivener. It's a servitor that you can plug a data slate into, and it just writes on vellum using like an ink and a quill. It's got two hands. They both do half the page. It's really disturbing, but also satisfying to watch. So it can print out a dossier for you before you head out. So you'll actually have a physical copy you can hand over in person. Nero, what are you going to be wearing for this journey?
So I'm switching back to my coat. I'm still wearing my coat, but I'll give it a quick spritz to get the booze off it. I'm admittedly still kind of rough from all the drinking he's been doing, but I'm going to switch back into dropping the flamboyant, like, Austin Powers business, and instead just back to my sort of classic nondescript, almost I think it's literally like it's a dark gray jacket, but underneath almost tactical clothing, like just nice and very muted, staying the hell away from all the major colors we've seen out and about. But almost like the kind of shit Han Solo wears under his vest, where it's just like, this is a shirt. It's kind of a Henley, but not quite. It is, of course, hiding my body glove, which I'm wearing under it at all times, but trying to look as sort of like casual. Yeah, just kind of like casual man in a coat as possible, rather than like big important person in coat. So just a little more scaled down, in a way that will, I'm sure, stand out as strange to the various people we've seen, because everyone is so factional on this planet. I feel like we'll still look like outsiders, but trying to look like an outsider who's just a professional who does a job, rather than an outsider who is, has status or anything like that ilk.
Great. So Nero and Mina, you head out first. I think Nero, because you're trying to focus on the mission and stop seeing bleeding people in your head, and Mina, because you cannot take your eyes off Nero. Clearly, there is something dangerous here.
Yep.
Seth, you're getting your auto scrivener done before you take your dossier. Piper, you get yourself all kitted up and ready to go. Seth, can you roll me a streetwise at difficulty? I'm going to say 4.
Ooh.
Difficulty 4. I'm going to give you a boost because you're clever, and I'm going to give you a setback because you're clearly distracted. And there is value to giving both of those instead of canceling them out. It just makes the die rolls different numbers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, no, it's more important.
Streetwise is cunning. Okay, so that's okay. May I ask what I'm rolling for?
No.
No, that's perfectly fair answer as well.
It's to notice something, but I think it would be a streetwise rather than perception because you're not looking for it. It comes down to your ability to track moving parts.
That's totally fine. If there are rolls where it's just kind of like,
yeah, and to be clear, I don't mind you asking.
that I'm able to pull something off. That's fine.
Basically, you're caught up in what you're doing, and it's whether or not you notice something in one of the other group's plans in time to tell them about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, buddy, I sure don't. One failure, one threat.
Fabulous.
Oh, no.
You're really focusing to make sure that there aren't issues with that auto scrivener because you're aware that if this servitor fucks this up, you will look really stupid if on page 2 all of a sudden it's blending reports and doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because you actually have all the good materials, which means you kind of have to be extra careful as a forger to make sure that they don't fail you.
Yeah.
So Piper, you head downstairs with Warden, and Seth, you follow. Turns out there are ground cars waiting for you. You're staggered enough that you don't go out at the same time. Eve Nuln is an older woman. Just kind of think Mrs. Doubtfire-ish, kind of in the overall vibe. She's wearing like a paisley dress, clearly from home. She's not house affiliated in her gear. She's there and she's just waving towards the cars, just saying, have a nice time, have a nice time. But she keeps saying it even after you're gone. So it's clear she can't hear when the door is opening and closing. And she has a blindfold on. So she's just blind, just gesturing you towards them. The cars that you get into are still the limo-based ground car design. They're a little bit lower quality, clearly. They're not trying to make you look fancy. You would just look like kind of an upstanding citizen from what you'd seen on the roads. You could be involved with one of the houses. You could be a guilder. You could be a mercantile. They're generic. They don't have the flags on them that you'd seen for some of the top vehicles. The divider is up. It is pitch black and clearly cannot be seen through, and it does not come down. Eve's cousins want fucking nothing to do with whatever you are doing. They only speak to you basically through a small little Vox grill that's beside you in the way of the 80s intercom. If they have a question, they can hit that, or you can give them instructions. You all end up taking cars exactly like this. The process is exactly the same. You're just a few minutes apart as you go. In the city, normally I would just try to figure out who gets where first, but I actually know how far you are from everything. So you are heading to the Fortress Precinct. All right, so the first people to arrive will be Team Mechanicus, because you are just heading one, you're in the wall section that's already attached. VIP housing is the spire section of the Mechanicus. Piper, it's going to be a bit for you because you have to travel basically around the spire to the Arbites Fortress Precinct. It's built into the spire. And then last but not least will be our main man, Seth, because he actually has to take a conveyance around the entirety of the spire to the opposite side and out into the city to reach House Bane. The Mechanicus and House Bane both have an entire spoke of the wheel that is dedicated to them. So as you leave the spire, you see kind of the big housing. The Fortress Precinct is in a spire district that's just all enforcers. You're pulling through the Mechanicus stronghold. Nero and Sister Mina and Seth are in a row on my sheet, so I just see S's and then panic every time, but I know who you are. But Nero and Sister Mina, you're driving through. Clearly, there is a lot of Mechanicus activity. You're not used to actually Mechanicus having this much dedicated space on something outside of a Forge world. But with the amount of terraforming that's going on, with our interest in Prom and knowing that's fueling a lot of Mechanicus interest elsewhere, it's not totally surprising that they have this level of involvement. However, you're not seeing a whole lot of citizens on the street in the Mechanicus stronghold. You're seeing a lot of Skitari, you're seeing a lot of tech adepts, you're seeing a couple low-level people, but there's still a lot more cybernetically enhanced than you would expect of the individual population. This may actually be, from what you'd probably assume, the equivalent of a small Forge World section. So the Hive is clearly technologically there. Terraforming is incredibly expensive. So it is not surprising to you that they would be heavily investing, because it usually in the Imperium, it's easier to just find different worlds and you just go like, that one's fine. Because with the power of the warp, being a few systems away is not actually different. However, the Prometheum here is so kind of voluminous, and it's in areas where it's feeding like the Sabbat Crusade and a number of other major crusades, that having this here and having this much value is really important, and they need it now. So they're investing heavily. The majority of the buildings appear to be residential meets factorum. It seems like kind of 3 factorums to 1 kind of hab block is the average as you go through here. But you're heading towards a taller structure at dead center. It seems like each of the spokes has the central larger building that's designed to be scaled up within the hive in advance. This is the Mechanicus stronghold at the center of the entire structure. You hear the Vox come on next to you, and you just hear like, "Hi, my aunt said you wanted to go to the Mechanicus. Do you want me to drop you off like at the front door or a little bit away and just park? Just whatever you want. I won't see anything."
Have you been driving with a blindfold on this whole time?
There's an auto drive function that I let do most of the driving, but I make sure that it starts, and I'll make sure we stop exactly where you want.
That's really impressive. I really appreciate you. That's great. Yeah, if you could just let us out, I think, at the front door. We've got an appointment, so we don't really need to skulk so much. Sister Mina, you all right with that?
Of course, whatever you say.
I see that's a dangerous precedent, but I like it. That's great. Yeah, take us to the front door, please.
Great. Just a second. Please don't get out of the car yet. I have to take my blindfold off to park. You see the car slow down and pull up in front of the equivalent of what you would expect for a basilica of the ecclesiarchy. It's that, but it's all machines. And it clearly is covered in pistons and other moving parts that serve no purpose other than to use power and burn oil and exalt the majesty of the machine god. For the more complicated a being is, the greater its machine spirit.
Tom's just throwing up the horns. I was literally just about to go like, so fucking 40K, man.
Yeah. Skulls and cogs, baby. Skulls and cogs.
Yeah, you both climb out of the car after it's stopped. You look in and see that, there is like a 16-year-old kid who's very gangly, and he has a blindfold on, just sitting perfectly still, white knuckles clenched on the wheel. You realize he actually didn't set up a way to know when you were gone, so he's probably just going to stay parked here with his blindfold on until you come back, unless you want him to do something else, but that might be useful. If you're ready to go, then you can just stroll up to the building.
I'll say, listen, kid, you can... someone might come along and need the parking spot, and I don't want you to get hassled because you're just sitting here with a blindfold on, or draw attention because you're, sitting here with a blindfold on. So I tell you what, you're going to give us a count of 20 ultramariniums, as I'm sure they taught you at wherever the fuck they teach you here. So just count to 20 ultramariniums, and think of your favorite blue-clad heroes of the Imperium. And then I want you to take the blindfold off, and you're going to look to your left and only to your left as we get out the right. So when you hear the door slam, just give me those ultramariniums. Just close your eyes and think of Gulliman, right? We're going to head up the stairs. When we come back, you're going to hear the door slam in the back. Just keep looking left, my man, and everything's going to be all right for you, okay?
Okay, sir. He says through the closed window, but he heard you, so it works.
Yep. And I turn to Sister Mina, and I'll say, hey, look, I'm sorry I didn't tell him to count with any Sisters of Battle or anything else. I just figured I'd pick the most obvious, glaringly obvious Imperium symbol. I respect you and your sisters more than any of those blue-clad clowns, right?
Of course. That's important right now.
Great. Okay. How oddly specific. All right, let's go talk to a biologist. And with that, I'll give my coat a quick Bane tug on the lapels and start making my way up the stairs with purpose. Very much walking like a man who has an appointment and expects to be able to meet it.
Approaching the front doors, there are a number of Skitari and other tech guard there. You're seeing they have red robes, but they're more a cape with a hood that clasps in the front, and then a heavily flak armored, cybernetically enhanced form. Full face masks. You cannot tell if it's built into their skull or if they're wearing goggles and some kind of structure to add targeting arrays. They're as armed as you would expect. This is a Lasgun crowd leaning towards Hellguns. You can't entirely tell. Mechanicus usually have their own models of things, but it doesn't seem like they're overly paranoid. This is just traditional. The Mechanicus is able to upgun everything because no one can tell them not to. You feel like you might have to go through, but one of them just holds out a hand that ends in a stump. There's actually no hand. It's just the end of a forearm with the equivalent of a USB key slot. And you realize that as it blurts at you and blah, 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 just binary can't, you can plug in a data slate. And if you've got an appointment with Ignatius Ironforth, it probably should just get you through. This seems like the bouncer of the event.
Sure. Yeah. So I will do that. I assume we've got some temporary data slates that we likely would have. I don't think Seth would have let us carry like our personal, like, you know, it's my laptop full of my writings, like to the dinner party. So I'll take the.
I think we'll treat slates kind of like, oh, it's your cell phone. There's like the one back at home.
Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
Your tablet that's super useful.
So this is my my Nero Forsyth alias phone from earlier. So very much still with the Clean Energy Collective credentials and everything else. I'll make sure to give him that one because I also want that information to actually register for the Mechanicum. So I'll hand him that and just kind of like look at the blank metallic face and just kind of choose where I think eyes are and give it like a nod.
It holds perfectly still and doesn't respond. The rest of them stand with targeting lasers from their left eyes directly on your torsos. They're either aimed chest, head, or for some reason you both have one on your groins and you don't know why. This may just have been an intimidation thing they programmed in, but you're not sure.
It's working.
A moment later, you just hear a loud ding like your toast is done. And they all, as one, step back and march aside as the giant cog-wheeled doors with interlocking teeth from top to bottom just spread with like loud grinding gears that you know are done that way on purpose because the Mechanicum have more than enough fucking oil that they would have some guy whose only purpose was to oil this door. Instead, they want you to hear the grinding of metal and you enter the massive cathedral to the machine. Meanwhile, Seth, you have gone across the circle to the far side. You're looking at a ton of blue buildings. Everything is covered in blue flags, blue pennants, all of those kind of things. What is your plan? There's a central structure, as you've seen from the other spokes as you're traveling around. That's clearly the Bane Fortress Stronghold. Are you going there? Are you planning to go somewhere nearby and try to talk someone into taking you? What's your strategy?
I think front door of the Fortress Stronghold. I think treating it like a business transaction, like I've been hired to help you, just to be as upfront about it as possible would be the best course of action. All
righty. So your car just kind of rolls along. You hear your little intercom going. It's like, hi, my cousin said I'm supposed to drive you around. Do you just want to go up front, right?
Yes, House Bane front door, please.
You got it. Don't come out. I got to keep my blindfold on until I know you're out or whatever. Just knock when you leave, and I'll count to like, I don't know, 100, and then park somewhere nearby and wait.
No response. Seth is just like, yeah, whatever your whatever your thing is, kid. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Please don't mind wipe me. I know you're really important. And then your car just rolls to a stop in front of the Bane Stronghold. It's actually made out of a blue stone. It's in the same sort of Gothic architecture of the Citadel at the center of the spire. You can see that there are clear aspirations here of like, look, we have the same thing and it's almost as tall in the sense that they were probably prevented from building something taller by code. So if it were up to them, they'd have the tallest thing, but it's that like you can't cast a shadow on the Citadel kind of rule. As you stride up to the front door, there are a number of armed guards out front. They're highly capable. You notice that these are more heavily armed than the Spire Guard you've seen or the other PDF Planetary Defense Forces that you've seen walking through the streets. These are straight up Imperial class stormtroopers, like full military carapace style helms with the lenses in the front clearly for night vision, all wearing hell guns. And the only thing separating an officer from the rest is a small piece of gold braiding just along the left epaulette on them, which for you is actually kind of a thumbs up because a lot of the Imperial forces are kind of dumb. And it's like, well, the sergeant is going to have no helmet and a face exposed to the wind, which is sort of like, hey, shoot that guy and you're going to do great. Right. Whereas this is clearly subtle enough that you could only spot the officer from a few feet away. Not even a sniper scope would pick this up. It's not terribly reflective. But it does mean you know who to approach with your massive dossier kind of in one arm.
Yeah.
And how do you want to make that approach? They all spot you when you're approaching, but no one points a weapon at you yet.
Yeah, confidently, one arm, holding the dossier together, and another one is kind of up, like hello, waving hello, but also nothing in my hand. And I would approach the sergeant and say, hello, my name is Seth Corbyn. I've been sent here by Governor Cologne to speak to Lucia Bain. No appointment, I'm afraid, but she's very much going to want to see what I have here under my arm.
What is it you have? The voice is filtered through the helmet. It's clearly coming through a speaker. It's got a little of that crackle to it.
It's a file containing the results of my investigation, covert, of course, into this entire house and Lucia's campaign for the governorship. You see, I'm a fixer, and I was originally hired by the governor to ensure his victory, and when I told him that simply was not possible, he asked me to assist the candidate that would make his transition as comfortable as possible.
You hear the whine of several of the Hellguns around you starting to power up, and the sergeant says, "You're telling me Drooling Rancid sent some kind of fixer because he wanted to elect himself? I mean, the crazy part sounds right to that, but I'm not following the whole story."
Look, the story's like this. We all know that Lucia Bain wants unity and things like that, right? The other two candidates are quite divisive and combative. That means a rather tumultuous exit from office for the governor. He knows he's going to lose. Yeah, he knows he's going to lose. He wants to lose and keep his life, keep his son's life, these sorts of things. And of course, I didn't get this crystal clear request from him, no. All the people who work for him, who would probably be executed or thrown out into the street, would like to keep some semblance of their livelihood.
Awesome. Do you have coercion or deception? What's your strength?
Deception.
Okay, yeah, this feels like you've got a good deception anyways. I would have leaned there. I just would have been like, if you were leaning on the scares, you could have done it. Yeah, let's do deception. That feels pretty solid. I'm going to say it's difficulty 3 just because you're trying to talk your way past the door with paperwork that I think these guys... You'd have your own entrance if you kind of called ahead, they'd probably think.
Yeah.
I will give you a boost because I think the pitch makes sense and would be coherent enough. And they are aware that this conversation is like the sergeant would know this is above his pay grade. Is there any other way you would want to affect this?
Let me have a quick look. Now, here's a question. My etiquette might come into play here, but I don't know what class these gentlemen are.
I would qualify them as low.
Okay.
I think high class, for the sake of our sanity, will be like highfalutin imperial servants or members of the houses themselves. These guys, there was a chance they were high class, but these are clearly staff. Like they're not,
okay.
Then I would leverage loyalists.
Then I would argue for a boost under my etiquette when dealing with low class, because I think I would basically lean more into everyone that this clearly deranged like leader and fail son is in charge of. They like all of their livelihoods depend on like a smooth transition. So it's like everyone who works under this guy has a lot on the line, I think, is what Seth would kind of like lean into to leverage the low class etiquette boost.
I'm assuming you also didn't bring any of your weapons.
Excuse me. For this, no, he wouldn't bring his weapons. He is dressed in like his plate, but also like with the jacket over and stuff like that, just so that if someone roughs him up or something like that, he can at least get away with his life. But no, he's not bringing his guns.
Yeah, no, this, I would say yes, you get that die. Because I think also you attacked the other candidates and talked about how you all want this to just make sense. And I think these guys would be horrified by the shit they're hearing from the other campaigns. It's clear if somebody else wins, House Bane is getting fucking stomped.
Okay, in that case, I believe I have my die pool ready to go.
Go for it.
2 successes, 2 advantages.
Nice.
The sergeant looks to the other ones and you hear over the crackle of his speaker just, "I told you the governor was a genius under there. He's just playing dumb. It's the only way he'd stay in charge this long. All right, pat him down." And the rest of them come forwards and pat you down and make sure that you're kind of clear of weapons there, Seth. And you see one of the other soldiers just cursing, handed like a 20 thrown note over to the sergeant over this bet that they've apparently had standing over the governor's capabilities, and you are actually walked in through a small side door. They don't bother to open the giant metallic door that's clearly barred from the inside. They actually have a little heavily fortified, but just a side door that someone opens from the inside, and you're escorted through there into the Bane Fortress. And then Piper, you and Warden are driven, and you actually just get dropped off. It seems like you may have gotten the smartest cousin of the Nuln family, who drops off, and just the moment you're dropped off, they peel away. But you realize as you look down, as a small piece of vellum flutters down, there's just a summoning code for a short range Vox bead or your data slate. So you can just send it to them, and they'll pull back up and around. If you could, this is the cousin you would give a raise, but they're gone. You are facing an Imperial Fortress precinct. This is a combination of a combat bunker meets a castle meets the world's most intimidating jail. It towers somewhere between 6 to 8. You legitimately can't tell from where you're standing. It's the fascistic architecture designed to intimidate. Every window is barred. Every corner and crinoline of the whole structure are all barbed wired. There are searchlights in that creepy old school prison way lighting the streets nearby. And as you march up to the front, you see that there are those large concrete dividers clearly intended to prevent street vehicles from ramming the structure. This is the first building you've seen that seems to think regular civilians will be an active threat, where they're ready for just, if the population throws down or an army comes at it, this place is ready, everything functions. There are a team of 4 enforcers waiting at the doors. None of them are full Arbites, which doesn't surprise you. There tend not to be a ton of traditional Arbites in any system. There's a lot of local help. They tend not to send too many people who are, qualified and empowered to shoot the governor in the head if there's a problem. Because the more you put around, the more trouble they could theoretically cause should problems arise. You get the feeling there are probably a few others of kind of Bo-Katan's rank or skill bouncing around the system, but it's probably just Decimus and Bo-Katan who are official Arbites here. Otherwise, it's just a small force. They're carrying combat shotguns. Their carapace is a little bit lighter than you expect to see from Bo-Katan when he was sitting at the table, or the other Arbites, but it's still impressive. It's the equivalent of the military stuff. It's just clearly in their own kind of street cop SWAT team style. They're wearing helmets that cover their eyes. They have like a little RoboCop eye slit in them, but their mouths are Batman style open, so you can have an actual conversation with them. Also, just because I love the Dread movie, they have the Imperial Eagle head wings on their shoulders, because that's still the fucking coolest armor design for Eagle cops there's ever been. So they have those because I want them
Excellent.
to. As you approach, they just say, "Halt, citizen. How can we help you?"
And I kind of like go to speak and then kind of cough because I'm not. It's weird having your voice enhanced. And I just kind of stand before them, just kind of very confidently, and say, "I have urgent intel for Chastener Bo-Katan."
Did he ask for it? What clearances do you have?
And I basically just like open my cape and like reveal the rosette.
Holy fuck. Okay.
And I close it very quickly.
Oh shit. Yes, you can absolutely see Bo-Katan. And he just turns to the woman next to him in armor, and he's like, "You got to take them in like right now." Like, no. And you see she wants to ask questions. He's like, "No fucking questions. Just take them. Shut up." And she turns and they just march you in. There's actually a littler door in the big door. Clearly they have the door that's intended, but you realize it's actually built into the structure and it's a lie. They just have 2 regular kind of room-to-room door-sized doors built into it. You're walked through that and find yourself in an elevator right away. You get the feeling that this actually entire front facade is just a way to draw people into attacking a facade that would not get them into the building. And they blast you up quickly several stories. No one checks you for weapons. Warden gets a pass. There's no problem. You hit a top floor. You don't see any more, like the lights go up on the little shitty square buttons that are lined with human bone of prisoners. Hit the top floor and find the door opens to what would be a bullpen, only there's no one in it. There clearly are desks laid out for a bullpen. You get the idea that this may be where every Arbites of actual rank has an official desk, but none of them are serving in this building currently. You're marched forward by the female enforcer to the end of the bullpen where there's the traditional, almost sergeant of the police door. It's even got the slatted windows inside, only the handle is also the skull of a prisoner. You get the sense that when people are sentenced to death, even the idea of putting their bones to work appeals to the Arbites as a method of penance to the Emperor.
It appeals to Piper too, to be clear.
Wonderful. The enforcer knocks, and you're like, let him in. And the door opens, and you and Warden step into a small cop office, kind of what you would expect at first, where you see a desk and the other things. Only the wall behind the desk, which is full of, knickknacks and books and things like that, parts with a pneumatic hiss. And it opens up into a vast granite space with a large desk, a lot of harsh right angles in all of the architecture. It's clearly been shaped to shrink down towards this desk in a menacing way. So when you look at the room, you get a sense of large, looming, ominous importance. And it all centers on one figure, which is Chastener Bo-Katan, with his helmet off, sitting in a full plate, writing at a desk that would be the size of a car. But behind it, he is just sitting there with a small cogitator and physical reports that he's writing on. And he just waves you forward with one hand. As you step forward, however, you hear 8 shotguns racked from behind you, all of them aimed at you and Warden. And as you look around, you realize this is an ambush. Spinning forwards, you see Chastener Bo-Katan has a bolt pistol in his hand, aimed directly at you.
Great.
And he says, that's a nice fucking costume you got there, but here's the deal. You forgot about dumbass in the back looking exactly the same. You're banished from this world and you came back, which means you're going to be in some shit now.
And I said, like, I'm sorry, I'm literally with the Inquisition.
From the written musings of Fabius Bile, panic is the natural predator of strategy. Piper, you're a little bit panicked. You have about 8 shotguns. You have literally 8 combat shotguns aimed at you. There are probably about 3 at Warden. You feel like of this crowd of nearly a dozen officers, you've got most of the attention as the psyker. And you're staring down the bolt pistol of Chastener Bo-Katan, who has identified you as the banished party member from the cannibal meal that you all had a few hours earlier. How do you react?
I say, I stay as calm as I can. Say, all right, so you discovered who I am, that I'm still here. Listen, sure, we were banished. I thought it might be more important to you to know that we've got some heretical shit going on here. Maybe more important than a little banishment. After all, I am with, and I show my Rosette again, like, the Inquisition.
All right, you're going to need to plug that into the desk over there. And he just gestures across the massive granite countertop of his desk. And a little metal slot has opened where you can plug in the Rosette or other kind of symbols of office that have digital reading parts.
Happily.
And he waits a moment, and you hear that same toaster ding that you now realize the Mechanicus must use as a general positive result. And he looks down and he goes, well, ain't that a surprise? All right, so you're Inquisition. Lower your weapons, lower your weapons. How many people did you show that to out front?
Just the 4 people who were at the entrance.
And I'm imagining you don't want your presence here to be known to the whole, Emperor damn world out there.
Certainly not.
Chastener Bo-Katan looks at you and goes, all right, just a second, I got to handle something. And he reaches down and you see him hit a button on the intercom next to his lady. He says, I'm going to need somebody to go trade out the team by the door. You can tell them all that they're getting promoted. And you hear the voice on the other end go, they're getting promoted just because they were at a door? I put in 10 years. He's, I don't give a shit what you thought, Smith. You send them up, they're getting promoted. You do a good job, maybe you do too. The door decides things sometimes. And he just hangs up. And he's like, well, I guess I got myself a few more official Arbites. Congratulations, everybody in the ambush room. You're all promoted too. You all get desks. It's the only way I can guarantee. You just see them all like high-fiving and kind of shaking hands and very excited. He's like, great, now get the fuck out and wait for the other team. He's like, well, congratulations. You just got like 16 new Arbites promoted because it's the only way I can guarantee they don't fucking tell anyone that you're an Inquisitor. Now they can't own property, but they got a decent wage, so nobody can bribe them. What do you need?
Well, and I think I basically like press a little like button on my neck and like I don't want to talk deep anymore because there's no point.
Thanks, that was weird.
Well, so basically, look, I'm here to deal with a threat, okay? And obviously you're just going to have to trust that, like, I can't give you all the information. But in the course of searching out this, like, serious threat.
No, but I mean, what is the threat? Because I'd really like to know. That's kind of my job. Like, I'll just shoot them and it'll be done. I got 16 new officers, and I will tell you they are all fully expendable.
Listen to me. Still gathering intel, still got a team. And
okay.
I can't tell. Look, I'd be happy to like point you at where to shoot when we know exactly who to shoot. But we don't know who to shoot yet.
All right, then let me help you figure it out.
All right. However, now listen, in order for me to do my job and try to figure out who's who, I have to be able to be like basically pushed into like people's minds and shit. You know what we do. I can't do that right now because we've got some like serious heretical like cult shit going on.
Wait, what?
In the city.
What makes you assume that? You realize as he's watched you do a very bad job of keeping things need to know, his face is just getting more and more puzzled, which is not an expression you're used to on like a Batman style face. But now he's looking at his computer and he's confused by you. And he's like, what do you know that? Okay, here's my problem. I wanted more information. You told me I can't have it. But now you're telling me there's some cult and I know jack shit about a cult. So what makes you think there is a cult here?
Well, a couple things have happened. We had like voice come through on our Vox, which is like talking about, I don't know, young Count Kornos and the One-Eyed Knight and some Vorpal shit. And
okay.
Also, I reached into the warp and it was just like basically like warning blares, like sirens went off and they're like, no, don't do this because like there's gonna like shit's gonna know that you're here.
I don't want to insult you because you're an Inquisitor, but so far the only proof you have of a cult is that you heard things that I can't prove were real.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that they're real.
Have you considered that your technology and your brain might be the problem? Because here's the deal. I'll show you the files. And he hits a button and the desk just splits apart and flips around into a much more manageable desk. It's clear this room is also an interrogation tactic, as almost everything is in the Fortress Precinct. And he just waves you forward and you and Warden can step forward. And now there's just a much smaller desk with this cogitator at it in a way you can see. And he's like, here's a list of every crime and arrest we've made. Here are the list of the warp occurrences. I ain't got shit on here that says there's some heretical cult. I cannot speak for Falsher Frieden or Geminella. Too far away. We don't have the same coverage we do here. This is a smaller city. But you can see I don't have any mutations. I don't have any psyker events. I damn well don't have anybody identifying as a cult. I got a whole shitload of problems with these fucking houses trying to kill each other and the sadistic governor trying to allow people to shoot people at parties. I had to fill out so much paperwork after your friggin' asshole friends decided to be cannibals, but in a way that was technically legal but wasn't. It took me 3 hours to get a pardon for y'all because the banishment wasn't legal either.
I put my hand up, just like, to be clear, who puts like people as like potential dinner as like an option if you're not then supposed to eat it? Like, why would it be an option? That's ridiculous.
Listen, I spent 3 fucking hours trying to get an answer to that question. I did not organize that dinner. I do not care for Rancid Cologne or his idiot son. I care if the tithes get paid. Here's the deal. I just need the tithes to be paid. That's what the Emperor wants from me. That's what the Emperor wants from Valda. Valda makes the big calls on whether or not we take him out. Vice Marshal. The reason they don't make me Marshal is I'd have shot those fucking Cologne bastards years ago and said anybody's better. Congratulations. You'd be governor. He just points to Warden, who's standing there stoically saying nothing. I'd prefer this man.
So who do you support of the candidates?
I support the tithes being paid.
So you're literally just
tithes,
like anybody.
You can be the governor.
So you literally think that like any one of the candidates would be like great at making sure that the tithes are being paid.
I mean, if I had to choose who I think would be most likely to pay the tithes, I'd lean Lucia Bain. She pays her debts. She gets paid on time. She pays her taxes the most, and I have the least provable crimes of her house. Again, does not mean she's not doing crimes. She's just clearly organized about it, and she pays her taxes. That's my job. Whether or not she's perfect or not actually falls under yours. And he just picks the rosette out of the desk and offers it back to you. He's like, you figure out how guilty people are. I just figure out if they follow the letter of the law or deserve to be shot. So as far as I can tell you, there ain't no cult. I hate to say it, think your feelings are wrong. However, what else can I do for you?
Well, then maybe you need to like connect with like your people on Geminella and Otherworld and make sure there's no cults there. I literally can't remember the name of the planet.
It's Falscherfrieden.
Falscherfrieden.
Yeah. Is the threat off world? Because it seems like you should be there if that's what you're worried about. I'll put the order in for the requisition. You're just going to get a lot and it's going to take some time.
Well, how long is it going to take?
I don't know. I have agents in the field. I'll try to get it to you in like a week. I can get you everything. I can get you everything on file. I got to send people over and get things back. I can use the Astropathic wire.
All right. Well, how about you get that information back in a day?
All right. Why don't we call it in the middle and I'll do it in 3 days?
2? 2 seems like doable.
Listen, you can put the pressure on, but there's only so much I can deliver. What I can guarantee is whatever's happening over there ain't going to get here in the next 2 days.
I gotta think about it. It's like, all right.
Normally I wouldn't push back, but the Rosette says your name is Balthus Billingberg, and I fucking doubt you're Balthus Billingberg. Clearly you're a friend, so let's stay friendly.
All right. Okay, fine. 3 days. But in the meantime, you keep watch on like cultist shit. I don't know if anyone's like messing with the candidates. I don't know what's going on here. I just know that they want to like, well, fuck, you know cultists.
I know enough about them to kill them. Here's the
Exactly.
deal. I'm going to be at all the events. The arbitrators are involved with making sure that all the letters of the law are going to be followed. So don't worry about houses interfering outside of what's been deemed acceptable. Again, I didn't write the laws on this fucking shithole. It's my job to just make sure they get followed, even if they're insane. However, if you need anything, I'll fucking help you. I'm the guy. I can get guys to do stuff as long as it's legal.
All right. So how do I get in touch with you on a moment's notice?
Well, I mean, I just want to make a 911 joke, but I'm not going to. Fuck it. You box 911. That's the code. You use the 911 Vox code. It puts you through to the Arbites. It'll come through to me. You ask for Bo-Katan. You drop your name, which is?
Oh, my name's Piper Fairley.
Great. You tell them you're Piper Fairley. I'll let my people know, and you'll be able to get through.
All right. Well, this has been productive. Thank you for not shooting me.
I'd never shoot an Inquisitor. I just shoot people who don't pay their damn tithes. Do you want to leave now, or does this keep going?
I'm going.
And as you leave the office, you just hear him get on the phone and be like, listen, I don't believe there's a cult, but there's some goddamn threat to this government that somebody's not telling me about. You got to find it. You realize he's a little bit of a J. Jonah Jameson of the Arbites world?
Yes.
As you piece out, having collected the fact that there are no cults and forgotten to get the genetic baselines.
You know what? Piper and Laura have a lot going on tonight.
I may have told you because I think you probably would have realized it before you left the building and would ask for them.
Yes. Absolutely. It's just like, yeah, it's going to be turning around. It's like, I know we had this like awkward parting. Let's just, I need this shit.
Get downstairs and dial 911 on the box. And like, one more thing.
Honestly, that's how I picture it. But you managed to get it before you get back to the team. So you can carry your shame of forgetting to disguise Warden in your heart, Piper, but you get to escape having forgotten to get the thing you were supposed to get over your trek. So that has been achieved. And make a note, Piper, that you will be getting the list of crimes from the other planets in the system after the resolution of the games and the governorship. So it's being compiled and it'll be sent to you then.
Great.
Seth, you have made it into House Bane. You have been escorted through a variety of winding staircases with a lot of murder holes built into them and a collection of a few different elevators that clearly have a limited floor functionality. It's clear that rather than being a traditional fortress, House Bane's fortress is designed to just make it so hard to attack at speed that attackers will be worn down internally in ways they wouldn't otherwise anticipate. Until you get to the top floor and find yourself escorted into a sitting room with Lucia Bane. It's very classically designed. The furniture is wood. There's a wooden table. There's a burning hearth, oil paintings on the walls. You get the sense that this is designed to create the illusion of being of the people in an old world kind of sense. It doesn't have the traditional kind of frippery of spending a lot of money on Mechanicus things or other highlights. She's actually reading a book. When you look at it, you see that it's the Imperial Infantryman's Uplifting Primer, which is the equivalent of like, I've got to go visit an important political figure. You find them reading the Bible and you're like, oh, I bet you had to go. You got that on a shelf just to open for when people walk in. And she
upside down. She's like clearly like looking at the pictures.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I hear you've been sent by our governor, Rancid, who turns out to be as clever as we'd all anticipated based on the random political movements of our world.
Yes, that's right. My name is Seth Corbyn, political fixer, and I'm on retainer by the governor to ensure a healthy transition of power. Originally hired to ensure his victory, and when I told him that simply was not possible, he sought out the next best thing, which is you, I'm afraid.
So what you're trying to tell me is the governor has chosen me to be the next governor before the games have started.
The governor needs you to be the next governor, given that the other two candidates will likely tear down his house and yours if they win.
Interesting. And she waves a hand, and the chair opposite her rolls across the floor without being touched. When you look down, you see that there are metal casters attached to each of their feet. It turns out she does have a certain amount of frippery for herself. It's just hidden within these rooms in a way that wouldn't be otherwise available. She claps her hands twice, and with a creak of gears, both of the chair's backs and bottoms flip, and they're now very padded. And a table pops out of the floor with amasec and a decanter and 2 glasses. She says, why don't you take a seat and we can have ourselves a little conversation? And she pours herself some of the vintage and gestures to you, wondering if you would like your own glass.
Yep, I'll accept that.
She'll pour it for you and offer it to you. 2 interesting questions in an interesting time.
To the peaceful transition of power. And he'll raise his glass and
clink glasses, drink. It is super fucking good shit. Your guess is that this is at least 1,000 thrones a bottle. This is the kind of thing that you would have only drank probably at the highest level cult things. And that's when you were like, you murdered the governor and had the party afterwards.
Right, yeah. Haven't had this in a while. Like my old life or even like undercover. This is a rare vintage.
Yeah, your old life, it was only, at All Hallows Eve or the 40K version of Christmas that I can't figure out off the top of my head, but it definitely exists. Candlemas, damn it, it's probably there. They celebrate it in an Eisenhorn book. I can't remember what it's called. But she looks at you and says, all right, so the games are already in place, and we've had to put our little pieces together, and we've got our one favor to call in from the other divisions. What can you do for me over the course of the next 3 days to help me sort this out?
I can get you information. I can get you information on the other houses to help you tailor fit your responses to their various selections for the games.
Excellent. So you're telling me you already know who their gladiator teams are who their heist team is, and who their runners are.
I'm telling you, I can get that information. Here, and I throw the dossier on like a desk, like, this is the information I collected on you at the behest of the governor. Now, I have a file on the other houses as well. I don't have those here because, well, I wouldn't just freely give those away unless we come to an agreement. But have a look. See what I learned about you.
She'll pick up the dossier and flip through it, taking in the information you've got. She seems fascinated. She actually takes a few minutes. It's clear that she's not uncomfortable in silence. A lot of people bring things to her that she will deal with in her own time. So she does not look at you or address you for probably, you think it's going to be over in 5 minutes, and it ends up being nearly 20 as she's taking in the documents and really drinking in the detail. And she sets them down, looking impressed on the scale of things, because normally I would make you roll for this. However, it is the governor's research, and we've established that his stuff is pretty good. So
I just put my name on his homework. Yeah.
Yeah. Smart way to get around a die roll. She's like, this is fascinating. So clearly, if your information on them is as good as it is on me, and I imagine it is, then this will be of great use once I step into a position of leadership. Were I the governor, this would help me rule most effectively. I do need the information on their game teams, however. And who's Ghazi Cologne running as a team? He's the only person I've had nothing on. He hasn't hired anyone.
Well, he's hired me. You see, he still must keep up appearances of remaining competitive. And so I put one of my people onto it, one Olianne Mina.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're running the teams for his games, and you're here to help me win.
Yes, you see now how I can be quite useful.
This is a level of duplicitousness that I am most impressed and, of course, disappointed by. She says in a purely dramatic sense where you're like, okay, this lady is as crooked as I probably thought she was.
Okay.
So here's the question I have for you then, Mr. Corbyn. How do I know this isn't a plan to get access to me or my team and then, for lack of a better term, fuck us right over at the finish line?
Well, you see, because you're going to pay me once you cross the finish line. I'm getting payment from the governor, yes, but you need me to win as well. And so I'm looking... You put it quite well, quite duplicitously, to get paid twice for doing one amount of work, one client's work.
Let's do a roll on this, because this feels like where it's the convincing of it. So let's go with deception, because I think that is a lie. You're not really looking to get paid twice.
Nope. Yep.
I will say it is difficulty. I'm going to say 4.
She seems pretty on top of things.
She is on top of things, and money is a sell, but it's also then why wouldn't she trust you to go somewhere else? So she's got to get a good vibe off you for this one. I'll give you a bonus because I think your info on the governor is good and suggests there is considerable access. And I'll actually give you a second bonus because the codes check out. So it means she knows for sure you have access to his household at a level that would suggest that you are in his pocket or standing next to him.
Okay. Rolling... 1 success, 3 advantages.
All right. I can appreciate that. A certain level of effectiveness from, well, I don't want to say weasel, but it seems like you're a little weaselly. Here's the thing. I think we could do a nice little symbolic agreement here, which is I don't want your team to beat my team in any of the games. So if you can keep me in the lead and keep yourself in a strong second place, then I won't have any questions for you.
So
but if your team...
I think
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he kind of sees where she's going. He's like, you're looking for padding, yes? You're looking for us to take second place to ensure that your real competition is so out of the running they have no way of recovering. It's not a bad idea. Similar to a thought I had.
And would prevent you from, let's say, taking an early lead for yourself where I feel comfortable and then dancing your way across the finish line to save Ghazi if he's got some sort of weird army or throne-making machine shoved up his ass. Then she taps herself on the chin and says, so I pay you at the end. I don't even need to ask the amount. If I'm the governor, I can pay it. And you can guarantee me victory without you overtaking me I don't even need it to look fair. I need to win for the people, of course.
Of course.
Well then, I think we've got ourselves a deal. She'll offer you a hand.
And he'll extend his hand and hold on, but before like shaking, he'll just say, in order for me to be at my most effective, I will need access to your campaign.
Define access.
Access like knowledge on how you plan to win these upcoming games so that I can then apply that strategy to see where the weaknesses are and compare and contrast to the strategies of the other houses to give you the advantage you need.
Well, that feels like kind of a big ask. So why don't we balance it? I'll tell you what I have planned for the games. We'll see how this first one goes, and then I'll update you on the second when we get there if you turn out to be good for your word.
I can work with that. And he'll shake the hand.
Yeah, and while shaking, she'll say, I'm sending in a team of stormtroopers, my fully trained house guard with the very best equipment to the games. I figure it'll balance us off if we're dealing with prisoners or close combat fighters. They can blast them down before they get there. But I'm hoping to make it to the long haul, and the later Xenos rounds are going to be the most deadly.
Now, these are your personal guard, are they?
Correct. I'm not going to send in my own bodyguards. Sorry?
They can't be bought.
No. There's a certain... one of the terms I've heard used for them is suicide kings, which is you pay people so well that their life is incredible, which means they die so their life stays incredible. It's impossible to buy them. Also, I have their family under my thumb.
Right. And of course, this arrangement you have is confidential given your public persona, yes?
Oh, yes, entirely. They're just loyal fellows living inside my citadel. And ladies, of course. You got to have a nice spread of talents across any team.
Very good. Armaments?
I mean, hell guns, full military carapace. Your number of questions is starting to make me uncomfortable with this deal. It feels like you're taking a lot without giving anything.
I'll come. I've given you something to think about right there on your desk, and I'll come back with a hell of a lot more.
Right, well, let's end this here, because what's on my desk tells me a lot about me, which is interesting. But I'd like to know more about the rest before we continue. So I think we're done here. At which point, just 6 guards appear from the other doorways, all of them armed. She's like, the fighters will be armed like them. And they just come over and gently and politely, definitively frog march you out.
Over my shoulder, I'd like to just yell. I have an idea of how smart you are. Look deeper. That shows the quality of my work.
She doesn't respond. You're already being carried out. But you see, she's looking at the papers. You can see, like, you've clearly caught some interest and some question marks there.
Yeah. The value isn't in the information on paper. The value's in, I got that information and you didn't know I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And with your success and advantage, she's in. And you're escorted back down the stairs and the various kind of murder holes and pathways and mini elevators down and out, which leads us back to the Mechanicus stronghold, full of pistons and steam and smelling like gasoline and things fueled by prom and all that greasy Mechanicum goodness. You've actually stayed on the first floor. It's a very tall building, but the Mechanicus, it appears, in the opposite of a lot of other societal structures that you'd expect, seem to appreciate the ability to come and go quickly as a sign of importance, as opposed to being very high up and buried within the fortress. Convenience and efficiency are always prized by those of the machine. You're brought through a number of hallways. They're smaller than you would have anticipated. I don't feel like either of you have had a ton of access to Mechanicus facilities. They're about a person, like a 9 feet, 10 feet tall kind of person and a half. And they're broad enough that you could probably walk 3 people down any of the hallways, which for you seems it's not vaunting. It's not trying to make an impression. It's function over form, but you don't understand the function until you see a large servitor, what will be known as a Cataphron breacher on the battlefield, which is tank treads to the waist, the upper half of the body, and then just a giant plasma cannon. And when that rolls past, you both have to flatten yourselves against the wall along with your Skitarii escort to allow it to continue. It's clear now when you look at these hallways, they're designed to be chokeholes at any point where they put one of these things. So they don't really have to worry about creating an elaborate layout. They can flood this first floor with bodies. And if they can keep doing that throughout the building, this would be hideously impregnable to try to take by force without a massive regimented army. It's really heavy guns to try to blast through the sheer amount of metal. However, you're here as friends. You had an invite. You heard that ding of your toast being ready. You're escorted down a number of hallways that are winding. Think of it as very feeling like we see images of the old Russian submarines. Everything's metal. There's a lot of crank doors that are being swung open and shut as you continue. Until you arrive at the office of Ignatius Ironforth. It is a number of small tables that are so close together, they're only spaced wide enough apart that Ignatius can float between them. But luckily for the two of you, with his weird anti-grav belt of containers, he is wider than a person, so you can wander through. There are machines on a number of tables, hanging limbs and other elements overhead that he can use to work. Massive setups of those repeated kind of, what is it? The lenses designed for working on jewels and other things in detail. Yeah. A number of them also include what look like fish tanks with limbs growing inside them or other elements of the human body. There's skin that's clearly being replicated on a number of frames towards the back that make up the whole wall. You're seeing muscle groups, there are eyes. It's a surprising amount of biological material. It makes sense to you because you know that this is a Magos biologist who has been doing the work on enhancing the human form. The majority of Mechanicus members that you've dealt with would actually have abandoned humanity as much as possible. Steel is strong, the flesh is weak. But this is the reverse and kind of inverse of that philosophy. When you look to the back of the office, you can see a large glass window. And inside is a surgical suite that looks like it's been designed by Apple. Everything is white. There's a lot of smooth edges. It's flawlessly sterile. There's a central table that is a chrome, super polished. There's no sign of dirt or grime anywhere, which is a stark contrast from the rest of the facility that you've been in. Clearly, that is where he does the treatments directly on people, whereas the rest of this is a more experimental Mechanicus style space. He's floating around. He's not wearing his robes. You're seeing, again, the metal torso. There's a surprising amount of flesh to his torso above his waist, where the grav suspensors leave him floating about a half a meter above the ground. So he approaches you at the regular height of a person. However, he just has nothing from the torso down. And there's a loud kind of hum, and you see the air wavering underneath, kind of like you would see from asphalt where the heat's rising. It's just got a little bit of that underneath him. He says, well, I'm so glad you could make it out here, Nero Forsyth. I mean, clearly you were banished. And he just waves a hand, and the Skitarii goes and exits and closes the door behind you. And companion, you are Sister Olianne Mina. Sorry, takes me a second sometimes. I got to make sure I got it in my files. I kind of heard what everyone was saying around the table because good ears. What can I do for you? A little banishment's nothing between friends. I'm kind of neutral on the whole government thing, along with the Mechanicus, you know? Down here, we just fuck toasters. Am I right? Nah.
And I'll legitimately laugh at that and be like, well, I mean, I did hear the ding earlier, and it did sound rather thrilled. So, Ignatius, I'm so thank you for the warm welcome. Your facility is absolutely incredible. And and I'll point at that room and I'll be, I am incredibly jealous of whoever gets to spend some time in there, because I got to tell you, I've slept in a lot of places and none of them have been as nice as that room. I'm not going to roll deception because I think that is 100% true in the 40K universe.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, I mean, today it's here for you. You said you wanted me to take a look and see if we can enhance you.
Yeah, I do. Listen, on that note, Ignatius, we are friends, which I appreciate. And I just want to clear some things up. My actual name isn't Nero Forsyth. We were here to do a little bit of preemptive scouting work, you see. And my name is Nero. But my last name's Abagnale, and just wanted to make sure that we're on the level here, because you seem like a really trustworthy fellow, and I wanted no secrets between us.
No space.
You'll have to excuse Sister Mina. She she's so excited to be here as well that she's actually just shaking with excitement.
Sister Mina, just so we know, for the listeners at home, can you describe your expression / what you're thinking? You don't have to be talking, but I think we all want to know what's going on with Mina while this is happening.
This is basically like the worst situation to be in right now. For one thing, like all of the bio enhancement stuff and even like treatments to de-age people, like the sisters in general kind of frown upon that because it's like they like being pure and they like when the emperor is going to take you, he's going to take you. So all this stuff is disturbing to begin with. Then on top of it, Nero is obviously unhinged, but also like Nero is her boss and kind of the linchpin of like her whole thing is I follow orders being a sister, and that's the end all be all. That's the beginning and end of how her life makes any sense. So, and on top of it, with him being all like upset about her being bloody, she couldn't even talk her way out of that because that's sort of her thing. And he's seen her do that and he hasn't been disturbed before. So now he's like, you and your blood hungriness. And she's like, yeah, because heretics. I don't understand what the problem is here.
So what's the exact physical expression of that level of internal panic monologue?
She is like her facial expression is like she's trying to contain it. The eyebrows are happening a little bit, but she's actually like semi-catatonic because she's like can't even hype herself up out of what is going on. Like that is to the level of like she's supposed to just be second to him. So even trying to step in or stop him is like she doesn't know what to, so that's where we are right now. We're in this place of utter panic and like, can someone else fix it? Can we call the Inquisitor? We need that. Things are bad.
Perfect. So that's over your shoulder, Nero. But you are talking to Ignatius Ironforth totally comfortably.
Absolutely.
Oh, you mentioned your Nero Abagnale. Would that happen to be, you just see him look up for a minute? Nero Abagnale, interrogator to Inquisitor Barthas Billingberg. I rolled an insanely hard tech use check for him to be tucked into the Adeptus Mechanicus Noosphere, and he fucking crushed it with 3 successes. It was difficulty 5.
For what it's worth, Ryan, I was going to have him test my DNA only so I could prove I was from the Inquisition. So yeah, this is all good.
Great.
I'll smile and I'll look back to Sister Mina with a classic, like, pretty good, right? And obviously just see her catatonic, like, panic rage.
Oh yeah, panic rage is perfect.
Can you provide a genetic sample just to confirm? I've been, I don't want to say I've been fooled before, but I don't have legs. So
well,
please.
And you know what, Ignatius, I wouldn't want you to be fooled again because we don't get fooled again around these parts, right? Am I right? All right, great. Yeah, no, I trust you. Here you go. Take whatever you need, and I'll just hold out my hand.
The tiniest, like, sir.
Sorry, Ignatius, you're going to have to give me just 1 second here. As you can see, Sister Mina isn't entirely comfortable speaking up in these sorts of situations. And I want to make sure that she feels a part of this too, you know?
Would you like a sedative or a calmative, something to lower her cortisone and stress levels?
You know, that's a good question. Let me ask her that real quick, and I'll get right back to you in just 1 second. I really want to make sure we're getting her what she wants. I might take one of those, though, if you're having one. You know, I enjoyed our drinks earlier, unless that'll get in the way of the samples. But just give me one moment, and I'll turn back to Sister Mina and say, yeah, hey, so I know I'm getting some hesitancy here and some concern. What would you want to talk to me about?
Sir, think about your training. Is this precisely are you doing exactly what you wish to be doing right now?
Yeah, listen, Olianne, you know how much you want to stab and kill the heretics, right? Ideally.
Yes, ideally, yes.
Yeah, me too.
One of the many things that we do. One of them.
Yeah, but you see, with Horus involved, it's the only thing we do, Sister Mina, because the great enemy. Yeah.
Nero, we are on a mission. We are on one mission. Once we complete this mission
and get all the information, we can go back. We can speak to the Inquisitor. We can figure out what it is you saw. But right now, you need to focus on what is in front of us.
Yeah, well, what's in front of us are the genetic samples we need to figure out who Horus has put on this planet. You see, that's what we need right now, and his pawn, Fabius Bile, and all that stuff. So listen, I'm just going to get these samples first real quick, and I'm going to give him whatever he needs to do that, because after all, I mean, you know better than anything, we are all transient in the Emperor's eyes, are we not? We none of us are permanent, unless you've changed your views on that. And I'll like flick the side of your robe a little bit just to like show fleur-de-lis in a subtle reminder of your beliefs and tenets.
Of course, nothing has changed. Yes, you're right. And I duly, triply, quadruply apologize. Please continue. I have your back.
Thank you. Also, and I'll just like point to your like tear ducts and just like, also you got some red there. You might just want to give that a rub. You're looking real spooky. And then I'll just turn back.
She will definitely do that and be like,
Alrighty, so you turn back and Ignatius is standing there and his two fingers on one hand are just twitching while he's holding them up. And he says, I didn't mean to overhear, but I told you I had very good ears.
Yeah, that's cool.
Horus is back and we have to stop Horus.
So I'm going to come over and just like sling an arm around him. And I feel like Nero, when he's kind of really feeling his kind of like camaraderie and kind of trying to help people do the things he needs them to do, ends up doing that that borderline close talker thing where like he's just he's a little bit in your space, but it's and again, like obviously I'm basing like physically off DiCaprio. I see DiCaprio do this in movies all the time. Like he does it in Inception constantly, but I also know people in like the theater community in Toronto do it all the time. And it's like they're just close enough that you're like, you're kind of in my zone here, but you're also far enough away that I can tell it's calculated. So it's that. I just kind of sling an arm around him and just kind of get in there. I'm like, yeah, listen, Ignatius, I've got some very good news and some very bad news. Okay. So the very good news is we don't need to stop Horus today. He's not here on your planet. He's not coming after us in the night with his claws and his sons and the endless legions that he commands. He's not doing that.
Okay.
Yet. Now that's the very bad news because my friend, he has spread. They said the heresy ended, but you're a smart guy. I don't think it did. I think what they tell us is what sometimes what they want to believe, not what's true. So here's the problem. We got, as you can tell from you ran my info, and I'll let you, and I'll like cut my hand as I'm talking to him, and just be like, I actually don't know if you need that, but anyway, I'll just like force the hand out kind of at him as I continue to talk.
Yeah. Waste not, want not, and he'll just like cup a palm, and you see it goes into his palm. But it's a mechanical hand, and then you see it go through a filter that was not there before. You realize something moved away, kind of opening up to it, and you could hear a kind of a little blur of machines in his head. And he's Nero Abagnale confirmed.
Thank you. That's great. That's handy. I should have thought this through, and I'll just like stuff my hand in my pocket, and just continue. So you know that I'm with the Inquisition. That I am in fact merely steps away from being an Inquisitor myself. So here's the thing. We've got some inquisitorial business here on the planet that has led to our fake banishment, our presence here. And the only one who can help us is you. So two questions for you, and they're very important questions. So I'm really going to need you to kind of be with me on this. All right. Question one, I'm going to need, and by I mean the Inquisition is the I in question here. Like you've seen. I. Yes, exactly. With little spiky bits off it. A lot of serifs of authority. The serifs of authority demand this. And of course, through us, the Emperor himself and his will. Now, I know as Adeptus Mechanicus, you know, you've got your folks too, and that's great, but they're on very good terms. You know, the Emperor has always respected the machine god. And I do too, and I respect you. I'm going to need the baseline genetics of all of the candidates for governor, the adoptees, because we've got some concerns there. The second question I have for you is, how would you like to be able to spread your biologist influence beyond these hallowed halls to the rest of the galaxy? Because man of your talent and of your understanding of the capabilities of the human body, I think deserves a seat on the Inquisition. Don't you?
Ignatius Ironforth, immune to a certain amount of understanding personal space, is having the same conversation he would with you if you were 5 feet away. It's one of the weird, when you machine parts of yourself, you kind of lose some ideas of distance. So he looks you in the eye and says, I can provide the baselines, but as far as we know of the Inquisition, you could not allow me a seat on the High Council of Terra. However, I could assist your band and perhaps be freed from my slavery under the under fabricator biologist Cathane.
Yeah, sorry, to be clear, when I was saying seat at the table, I meant at my table. I can't possibly offer you that, and I wouldn't want to lie to you, Ignatius. I don't lie to friends. And I'll turn and shoot like a significant look at Mina, being like, this is for you too.
I was going to say, Ignatius also turns and shoots a look at Mina. Mina, are you trying to convince Ignatius this is true, or what's your reaction to this throw to?
Oh, about friends and lying?
Yeah, that he would never lie to a friend.
She like twitches when it comes from Nero, because it's like feels like a slam, man.
Can you roll a deception for me?
Okay. Oh boy, you're probably not gonna like it though. Deception?
Difficulty? Yeah, perception. Deception from you, and then difficulty will be, just a second. Difficulty will be 2.
Okay.
Or no, I'm gonna make it difficulty 3 because he's craftier than most. I will give you a boost because you do have a half a second before he looked at you to say this, but a setback because you did not cover terribly well.
No, she's an open book. So yeah. Man, I want to use a story point, but I don't even know how I could.
I think a desperation or a quick try to cover would definitely allow for a story point.
I also feel like, Delb, going off what you've described about like how much Mina is all in on the idea of duty.
Yep.
Even if it's like odious to her, the idea of like Nero somehow needing something from her in this moment, I think weirdly, like no matter where you're at, it's like gotta deliver for the boss. Like to me, that trigger, like I would take that as a story point trigger, like to Ryan's point about desperation, but also just that like rock in a hard place, like.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, I said it serves Stannis Baratheon, so I guess I do that.
Right. Like even that conversation basically turned her from being like worried about him and feeling like he's crazy to feeling like, oh, she's super fucked up. Like she should have just trusted him the whole time and she fucked up and it's her bad.
No.
Like
oh no.
That's how she feels now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he just pushed back so hard and also called her out on being like unfaithful, basically. So she's like, oh no, this maybe was a con the whole time and I fucked up. Like she feels real bad. So
no, Tom does as well. Nero does not notice.
All right. So that's gonna be 1 green, 1 yellow, 3 purple, a boost, and a setback.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Oh, 2 successes, 1 threat. we did it, fam.
Yeah. Ignatius looks at you and looks back at him and says, yes, it's clear that you don't lie to your friends, though some seem to be unsure of whether they're your friend or not. Have you suffered from brain damage?
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Yeah, you see, that's something I'm going to want to talk to you about if you take me up on my offer. And it sounds like if you're enslaved here, I mean, that's not a great scene. So join us. We'll have to, of course, make sure everything's on. We'll have to, vox some people first to make sure that, again, I just want to set clear expectations. But and then now I will do a full DiCaprio lean in and go, I'm a little concerned about my brain and state. So yeah, I'm going to need some tests done, I think.
I accept a role within your party. Ha, 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 ha. And then he squirts saline out of the edge of either of his human eyes. And he's like, I have both laughed and cried, things that are emotionally significant for humans. So you know that I am bonded to you. Now, why don't we scan you while I pull up the genetic templates that you need? Please enter my room.
I will say, of course, I just do need one moment to confer with the sister here, and I'll walk over to you, Mina, and say,
would you like me to not listen?
That would be appreciated. I know you got great hearing, and I like
deactivating ears.
I'll like mouth at him, and then I'll turn back to Mina and just say, I really appreciate you having my back on that. That's and of course, so does the Emperor of the Confederacy. He in his golden throne will of course look fondly upon that. You've done a good duty here today. Here's the thing. I'm gonna go get scanned by this man in this strange room on this strange planet. I think he's on the level, but if things go sideways, I trust you will see that the Emperor's wrath finds its way to these hallowed halls, correct?
Of course. As always, I will protect you.
That's great. I thank you. I appreciate that. You know, it's funny. I feel like the Emperor thought that Horus would protect him too. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way, but you, and like he'll legitimately like put a hand on your shoulder and like give you the most earnest look he can. Just be like, I got a feeling you are no Horus. And then he'll just smile like he really gave you a nice compliment and kind of slap you on the arm like he does Seth, and then just like wander over into the chamber.
Oh boy, she's gonna take a moment because he is just pushing her buttons right now, even ones unbeknownst to him, and she will follow along behind and definitely keep an eye out. And if anything goes anyways badly at all, the chainsword is coming out.
So the interrogator is brought into the room and strapped down gently in ways that check out and seem like those are where the grooves are in the setup. When you see the scanners and how detailed they are, it's clear that you just can't move much during the test. Once you're strapped in, Ignatius says, come with me, sister, and brings the sister back out through the glass window to see what's going on in the room, and it seals shut. And he begins firing up the various scanners that start to do what they're doing. I'm sorry, is there a problem, sister?
He's in there and they're outside of it, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Yes. Yes. The interrogator's in the machines. You're with Ignatius Ironforth outside the room watching the scanners get fired up. And then the door behind
like
you,
a hawk.
The door behind the entrance of the room kicks open with a massive squeal and slams against the wall with a clang, and a huge bulk steps under it into the room. And you just turn to hear the voice, I am Fabricator Cathane. Who dares enter my realm without permission? And Sister Mina, you turn to find the Fabricator, the commander of all of the Mechanicus in this system, staring you down. And you don't have any answers. From the scrabbled ravings of Fabius Bile. I can always use a few strong arms or a few more spare parts. I shall leave it up to them to choose which they would rather be. Sister Mina, you are standing facing down nearly a metric ton worth of Fabricator Cathane. You realize now, having seen Cathane at the dinner and here, Cathane appears to be more a torso and a robotic skull that are plugged into various bodies. And the one here is large, multiple servo arms, legs that are clearly deeply bent, hunched forwards, but very menacing. And Cathane says, who are you, and how dare you have intruded upon my realm?
Olianne turns about and twitches like she's like battle ready, and then she winds herself down and says, we have an appointment.
Tom, you're getting blasted with weird visions, but you have no idea this is happening.
Still the nicest bed I've ever been in. So, just dealing with that weirdness.
Cathane turns to Ignatius Ironforth and says, "Why wasn't I made aware of this?" And Ironforth's like, "Oh, I made a promise at dinner, and then there was the issue of banishment, so I was giving you plausible deniability in case there were legal ramifications." And Cathane weighs, you can almost feel the meters of like Cathane's trust meter inside this giant insectoid robot head go, "This does kind of math out for me. But why did you search for an interrogator of the Inquisition?" And Ignatius is like, "Ha ha, sister," and just throws you under the bus. So you're going to have to explain this, Sister Mina.
Oh, not her forte. She just gives him the dirtiest look. And she says, "Because we're escorting a Inquisition."
Do you have can you roll me a cunning check at difficulty 1?
Oh.
Just straight cunning versus the difficulty.
All right, here we go. 1 success, 1 advantage.
You have the ability to call in a favor from an organization that they can't say no to. If you want to derail Cathane's questions, you could demand something for the Gladiator games.
I wanted to save it for later, but god damn it, I guess we're here. All right. Well, sorry.
Or you can
everybody.
save it.
I wanted to save
it's whatever's insisted.
We have many more days going on here.
That is very true.
I feel like I could kill this guy, maybe. It's fine. It's fine. She's just going to, we're doing her second idea, which is just she's gonna flip over her cape and all that stuff and pull out her shield, which has a big Inquisition eye on the front, and she's gonna say, "Because we are the Inquisition."
I feel like the moment the shield comes out, Cathane immediately produces 3 different weapon arms that start charging, but Cathane looks to Ignatius and goes, "Did the genetic platform balance out? This is confirmed?" And Ignatius is like, yeah, they're real. I was surprised too. Balls. And the big weapon arms just power down.
And she puts her shield away. She just did it to show, just for showsies.
And Cathane shrinks down a little bit and comes to rest on the floor. You can see the hisses of steam kind of spray out as she settles down. "What can we do for the Inquisition? We are in compliance."
Well, the Inquisition and the Emperor appreciate that. And what you can do is keep your mouth shut and let Ignatius do his job.
Acceptable. And she stands back up through the hiss of steam, and you hear the big clunks. You look down and see she's making dents in the floor as she walks. This is clearly a combat body put on to go deal with uppity intruders. And Cathane leaves and slams the door behind her. And you just see Ignatius let out a big breath, as though there probably are human lungs inside Ignatius, is what you would assume. "Ah, that was convenient. A good cover, too. By saying that, it means she could throw me under the bus if anything goes wrong. So she won't keep too close an eye, but... Oh, yeah, she's already started deleting things from the subroutine. Do you want me to save the information she's currently deleting?"
Yes, please do that. Do that and then get on with it. No more interruptions.
Sorry, that was kind of beyond my control. He just quickly starts typing, and you see the scan is almost complete. He does some typing. Let's see how good he does on saving information for you. He has tech use of 3 in a shocking twist. He's very good at tech use.
Oh, right, because of the tech around him.
For 5, he is plugged into the new
I can still
sphere.
hear Nero.
She's his boss. No, he doesn't have anything from the Rosette. If he had the Rosette, it would help him. Oh my God. He is the luckiest motherfucker in the world. So got some files for you that I think might be useful later. If not for this case, I've got them on the system. However, she knows that you made me take them, so she's going to be less of a fan of yours moving forwards.
It doesn't matter. Just.
I cannot wait to join your team because I want to be a part of a team where someone can say the fabricator of a system has a real problem with you and you can go, I don't care. All right. So the scan's complete. I'm going to keep showing him pictures of bunnies for a second. Okay. I'm just going to do another quick tech use check because I need to know the results of this test. There we go. Oh my God, 5 successes. Okay, this worked really good.
We're just going to give him the
Emperor
Rosette.
bless.
He's the best. He is the
He's
best.
our guy
of us.
now.
You're the
Right.
you're the Inquisitor now.
So this is a bit awkward. I'm going to keep showing him these bunnies, and then you and I can talk about this, and we could decide what you want to tell him. He's been brain damaged, but in a very technical way that would suggest, from what I've seen in my history of this, as some sort of sanctioned psycho activity. If I had to guess, this happened a couple of generations ago, but this is very similar to a mind wipe. Somebody went in there and just cleaned out everything. If I had to look at the rate of healing, I would say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, just wiped them clean, and then. I'm not a psyker, so I can't tell you if they put a template in there or what they did, but no, there's something wrong with this guy.
It was a psyker, not technologically.
Well, here's the thing. They can do the wipe technologically, and I would believe that because there's definitely like some brain damage left over from the chemicals. Like that's what I would do, but I can't put a new memory back in there. And unless you know him as the guy who's like, you'd say, what happened 3 years ago? And then he just goes, and then drools. If he does that, then they may have just done it chemically. But if he has memories beyond that, then somebody put a new template in there, and it was not a machine.
Oh, I see.
So the big question that I kind of got to ask you is, do we tell him?
Well,
'Cause I wanna
somebody's got to
join this
ask
team.
him what happened like 3 years ago, just so I can hear Ryan do that sound again.
So, if he doesn't know, it could really damage him to find out. And I kind of want to join the team that isn't afraid of Fabricator Cathane.
Right. Yes. Is there... Can you save this information and keep it?
I mean, yeah, of course. So can you. You know it now, so you just don't say it aloud, and then you know it later.
Well, if there's any schematics or anything specific, save that, and we'll discuss it later.
Do you want me to put it on like your data slate, or do you want me to just keep it here and you can ask for it when you want it?
No.
I gave you two options and you said no. I'm confused. I'm a very literal person. I'm sorry. I spend a lot of time with machine people.
This is not my forte, so just... Emperor, damn it all. All right, give me the information, and you're coming with us.
Oh, I don't know if you want to do that. I can, but then I'm not here, which means you don't get any more information from here. So do you want me to go live with you? Because I would love that.
All right, well, just let him out and we'll ask him.
Okay.
Not about the other thing, just about where you're going to live.
Not the brain damage template thing.
Don't
whether
say
or not
that again.
Not about the thing that cannot be named, but just about where I'm going to live.
Yes.
Okay, here you go. And he like gives you a little chip that you can slot into a data slate. It's about the size of, if you remember, like SIM cards for phones, like very, very tiny, about pinky nail kind of thing that you can plug into any data slate, but it's really easy for you to pocket or hide it. It's not something anybody would find unless they were actively looking for it.
Right.
If somebody's searching your clothes, they would have to roll like a triumph to find it.
So she's gonna put it in a secret inner pocket in the dress somewhere.
2 triumphs. Yeah, it'd be hard. And he just bustles into the room and undoes the interrogator, and he's like, all right, so we can put some new muscles in there for you, maybe. It's going to take a couple weeks if you've got the time. But otherwise, the big question was, do I stay here as a spy, or do I go live with you wherever you live now? Because outside, the sister said maybe I could live with you, and I would like to leave.
Ignatius, I first of all, I want to thank you for showing me that just adorable pantomime about the Primarchs, the fuzzy little Primarchs just running around to all the corners of the galaxy, and then the Emperor's got to go find them all, and they're just hopping away. It was very amusing, and I needed that good laugh. Couldn't figure out which one was him, but I tried my best. Yeah, listen, I want that for you too. I really do. And there's one problem, though, that I really want to be very clear with you about. I'm just an interrogator. I'm not quite Inquisitor level yet. Now, I can likely just requisition you, and I think that's fine. Of course, we may not want to, tell everyone here, tell your fabricator Cathane, that we're Inquisition. That might make things a little bit awkward. We still don't know who's on the level, aside from you. So I'm thinking, let me go talk to my boss. I'll just call him on the Vox, make sure it's all good. Because the last thing I'd want, Ignatius, is to bring you with us right now. Just bring you right out here, get you set up in that great new home we're going to have ready for you. And then have them be like, no, you got to put that guy back. So I think that'd go real bad for you, right?
Yeah, I would be disassembled and turned into a servitor for betraying the Mechanicus.
No, and you see, I don't want that for you. You're too cool for that. I enjoy talking to you too much. I don't want you to just be some skull on a stick with like a weird elevator hand. I know that's real specific, but I've been seeing that guy a lot lately. He just really bums me out. So listen, here's what I need. Let me go talk to my people. You stay here unless you think you're under threat, in which case we can get you out right now.
No. Your partner spoke with the fabricator, revealing that you were with the Inquisition. So she has no further questions. She's accepted me as an acceptable loss, which means I will have a certain leeway to carry out activities on your behalf because I can be denied and then turned into a servitor afterwards.
Right. All right. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to give you a private Vox number. Does 911 get used for anything around here?
That connects with the Arbites, but 911.1 I could convert over to our own.
No, you know what? No, that's fine. Back where I'm from, on Traven, 999 is how you get how you get the Arbites. It's strange how that changed. So why don't we use that?
Okay.
You dial 999. That'll go straight to our private Vox link. Because I don't, and then I'll let go over and like legitimately like again put a hand on your shoulder and be like, I don't want to be worried about you here. You know what I mean? So if it ever seems like you're in danger, you call us, and I'll get Sister Mina's wrath and fury to just fucking descend on this place.
Okay. Yes, interrogator. I am excited to have joined your band in this undercover role. I will build you many muscles.
Yeah. On that note, not going to need those nuzzles. Sorry, I'm still a little bit loopy from all those pictures. Some of them were real scary. Like I kept seeing like all the colors of the sun rising. That really freaked me out. But luckily there was some like blood and gore to really calm me back down, which was good. So thank you for that. It was a good arrangement. So yeah, listen, that all sounds good. You stay here. You got those, and we'll get to the muscle thing a little bit later on. You scanned my brain, right? Did you and I'll like lean in a bit closer and like almost sub-vocalize, knowing he's got real good ears, and I'll just whisper, "Did you figure out what they did to me?"
I'm waiting on results. I should have them for you in a few days.
And I'll nod and say, yeah, that's all right. That's good, champ. All right. Thank you. Great. And you got those genetic baselines for me, yep?
Yes. They've been uploaded into this. And he takes out 2 more little SIM cards and he offers one to each, like you, and one to the sister. Plug those into any data slate or specifically a gene printer, and they should be able to tell you if something matches. Those were taken within the last 3 years. They've all had treatments within the last 3 years, so it should be accurate, at least to our databases, and more accurate than those Arbites have.
Yeah, 911 calling motherfuckers. All right, that's great. Ignatius, you are a true asset to the Inquisition, and you are a true and righteous knight in the service of your machine god, I guess, but also our beloved emperor on his golden throne, as long as he may retain it. Huh? Yeah.
One and the same, according to the law. The Omnissiah is the Emperor, unless you ask anyone who has enough power to disagree.
There you go. Don't ask the sister. I feel like that's where you're going to get that disagreement. Great. Well, in that case, keep up the good work. Honestly, we're happy to have you. The last Mechanicus didn't work out great. And then I'll kind of look at the sister and be like, we had Mechanicus, right?
I mean, I'll tell you.
Did we?
No, you had exactly your 4 team members during your 4 missions. That is all you know.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yes, she says. We're just wanting to make him happy.
Tom, would he be looking to see if that was a lie, or would Nero just be looking for an affirmation?
I think Nero's confused enough that he's not actually trying to actively.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need to make it an opposed check then. We could just.
Yeah, no, it was almost to himself. Like he almost did a full like Seymour Skinner, like staring out the slats of his blinds as everyone else sits in his office awkwardly. So yeah, I don't think he'd be probing too much yet. He's also still a bit dazed from his Clockwork Orange treatment. So yeah, he'll say, yeah, great. But you, Ignatius, you're going to be amazing.
Thank you. Goodbye. At that point, he just ushers you both out the door and you're done. It's clear he's incredibly literal. So if he feels like a conversation is over, he will just end it and get back to work. You head outside. Your ground car pulls up. There's a blindfolded guy in the front. You get in, then it pulls away. So you know that that's all taken care of. Within a few hours, all of you having had your various security check-ins, your various negotiations, all of this has taken place. You're back. You arrive around the same time. Some meetings took a little longer, some were a little shorter, but you're back in the room. You have a moment to catch up before you should rest to be on your game for tomorrow's Gladiator games. However, you've got to catch each other up on what's happened and formulate whatever plan you can for tomorrow. So how does that conversation go down? We'll say you all have a moment to like collect whatever the equivalent of, like, if you want a recaf, if you want some other drink of some kind, you could switch into whatever your Inquisitorial jammies are and then have that like end of the first day at camp chat in the common area before you go to rest.
I love the idea of Inquisitorial jammies. I know you just threw that out there.
With the insignias on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm imagining mine has like a bunch of them, but then also smaller ones and like little cherub servitors and like, you know, they're very soft.
Love that. Love that.
Honestly, if your characters would legitimately want those, you do have servitors who would make clothing to your specifications. So it's kind of like whatever your sleep clothes would be that you would want to wear it to chat in.
Realistically, Nero would be wearing those obnoxious like red silk like sleep suit situation thing. He might have no, he wouldn't have the Inquisitorial eye. He doesn't want that anywhere on him other than the rosette, which he will definitely hold out a hand for as soon as he's within hand holding out distance of Piper.
So Piper, what are you wearing and what do you hand over? What's late night Piper like?
I think late night Piper is in, I think, a midnight blue, very traditional, like button up, like loose, silky sleep set, like with white symbols of the, is it just the Adeptus Astropathica?
Correct.
Yes. So it'll be those would be the symbols that she'll have on them.
Nice.
And yes, she will hand over the rosette.
Warden has a second identical version of his coat. He has the equivalent of what I use for my CPAP. There's a small machine that he puts one coat in to sanitize it while he wears the other. You would all know, no one else would looking at him. His coat is actually an elaborate form of armor. So he sleeps in it, even though it's comfortable, because he is ready to report for duty at any moment. Finding him out of that would only happen during time in a hypnocask.
Like, Chaos doesn't sleep. Why should he?
Exactly.
I'm getting big like Mr. X or like Nemesis vibes from Warden. Just tall, dark, and unstoppable.
Tall, dark, and spooky.
Yeah, that's the vibe he wants to give off. So he's nailing it.
Yeah.
Do you return the rosette, Piper?
I do. I'll hand it over.
Sister
Having
Mina,
none of the information.
Sister Mina,
Oh no.
was gonna say, but this is a nice way for us to kind of paint this picture. Sister Mina, you see the rosette handed back. What are you wearing, and how do you feel? You don't have to talk yet, but how do you feel about seeing the rosette handed back to the interrogator?
Oh boy. So she's wearing just another dress, but it's like a sleep dress, like a turn of the century, like you would see on a little kid, like big and shapeless, just like white with laciness on it, just like basic. She has a lot of, of mixed feelings right now. So she's fine with the rosette getting handed over, but she's just like inner turmoil, conflicted.
Nice. And Seth, you're the last to arrive because you had the most stairs and elevators to deal with, along with the longest drive. So you're the last one to arrive in the room as everything is kind of returned to place. Do you have sleep clothes? And I would say you're probably the first one to talk. That feels like Seth is the guy who breaks the silence.
Yeah. Seth will come in and, like, without looking at anyone, he'll be like walking into his room and be like, "I'll be out in a moment. I'm going to change," and he's just going to go in with like his long coat on and stuff like that, and he's going to come out in like a smoking jacket, and like a Ebenezer Scrooge nightcap.
Oh yeah.
And he'll have taken his shoes off. He's just in his bare feet, and he sits at like a chair and like kicks his feet up onto the table. It's just a fucking dick thing to do. But like a table that like everyone else is sitting at, who's got his feet up.
It's the table we eat at. Yeah.
Yeah. After like a full day of like walking around and shit like that. Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, it'll be an expensive wooden dining table with gold inlay. Picture it like the top floor of a Trump-ish hotel. like it's a poor person's idea of how a rich person would live.
Right.
And you're in the dining room section. I like that juxtaposition of all of the bed clothes.
Mm. And he'll say, right, I've secured an alias and rapport with Lucia Bain. She believes me to be a political fixer of sorts, sent over by the governor to ensure her victory. There's enough truth in that it was easy enough for me to fabricate the rest. She's told me that her gladiators for the fight tomorrow are going to be a unit she calls her Suicide Kings, a band of unturnable stormtroopers. They'll have hell pistols and carapace armor, the like, fairly standard stuff, but it seems like their dedication to her is unquestionable, as she has their lifestyles taken care of, as well as their families under her boot. So they're not going to give up willingly, which works out as we've agreed to help the governor, and I've got Lucia thinking I'm helping her. We're going to see about coming in second place at the gladiatorial event. We'll let them take first. We just need to worry about keeping the other houses in third and fourth, respectively. How did we do elsewhere? He's like quite satisfied with himself, being like, no hitches, no hang-ups. He's going to sip like a cup of tea that a servitor has prepared for him.
And Piper will just say, well, so had a nice chat with Chastener Booktan, knows who we are. So I mean, basically, according to the Arbites, it's fine. We're here now. He's gonna search for like cultists, but honestly, he doesn't seem to think that there are any on this planet. So he's like getting information about like the other planets in the system. I don't know what that's gonna mean. So I'm like, keep an eye out. So he's gonna be keeping an eye out. And we basically got him on speed dial. So like, if anyone wants to call him, it's just like hop on the Vox and dial a 911, and
So
we've
then
got the Arbites.
You're comfortable with using your powers then?
Oh, absolutely not, because he
Because
says
of the
that
cultists that aren't here.
Yeah, well, he says they're not here, but like I'm not sure that they're not here. And even if they're not here, then like wherever they are, it's still like affecting me, obviously. So who knows? Maybe it's something like super powerful that can like affect at like a really big distance. I don't know.
Yeah, Seth, not to put too fine a point on this, but we did hear spooky voices come through our dearly departed Vox coders. So I'm inclined to agree with Piper. I mean, personally, I don't really know anything about a cult being here, but forces of chaos, specifically one that has, a rather large, and I'll just like point at my eye, be like, that one I think is probably looking around for someone just like Piper. So I'll like nod at you, Piper, in like a very like, yeah, this is the way kind of.
And like, to be clear, maybe it's not called this, but it's something damn scary. Oh, and I got like the gene stuff. So there we go. That's the baseline.
And Seth will turn to Warden and say, Warden, what's your read on this heretic cultist situation? The local law here says there's nothing to worry about, and yet Piper's not satisfied as someone whose primary concern is whether or not she is, her abilities are taken advantage of. What say you?
Laura, you have Warden's sheet.
Yeah.
What's his, is streetwise or perception higher for him?
They're equal.
Great. Then let's roll a streetwise / perception.
Okay.
I'm going to say
probably
difficulty.
Perception, yeah.
Sorry?
Probably perception.
Yeah, that feels right from what he saw and what he heard.
Yeah.
I will say a difficulty 3.
Okay.
I feel like it's pretty clean for me. Does anybody want to add story points or anything else? We're at 3 in your favor, 2 in mine.
Asking for a read doesn't sound like we need to blow a story point on it. We can
No, and also I feel like
RP around whatever the result is.
Yeah.
I think like my understanding of Warden also is again, he's not really on our team, he's just with our team.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like it's a matter of if a demon gets in her head, I shoot out the front of her head. If there's no demon in her head, I don't care to conjecture. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is if the demon goes in the head, pow, sword.
Alrighty, yes. So just roll that die pool then, Laura.
Okay, 1 threat.
He taps his belt, and you just get don't know, bad.
Okay.
All right.
Though it's probably worth flagging, that seems like a pretty standard response if you ask him about anything warp related.
Yeah, he
that's
probably
why I
just
think-
assumes it's all bad because he's just constantly on the watch for it. Yeah.
So I think Seth is like typical response. All right. So Piper remains to be scared of her own shadow. Nero and Mina, what have you got?
We'll stare at each other in kind of like a vaguely tense silence.
So
and
there's a tension, a palpable tension.
After like, what have you got? And then like a sip, and then there's silence. So he's like, in regards to your meeting with the Iron, I've lost it.
Ignatius Ironforth.
In regards to your meeting with Ironforth, of course.
Oh yeah, that's great, Seth. That's great context. Yeah, no, we got that. We just had a couple hiccups along the way. It doesn't sound like ours went as smoothly as Piper, who clearly got the gene code baseline immediately, and then investigated her personal interests. Or I mean, you sounds like you've inserted yourself quite nicely there. So I got some good news. First of all, we got to clear out a new bed back aboard the Emperor's Hand because we're going to have a new member joining our merry band. Ignatius Ironforth himself will be our new Mechanicus. Just got to check with the Inquisitor first to make sure that's all kosher. But he's a helpful fellow. Knows a lot about the manipulation of biology and genetics. Admittedly, he may still turn out to be an asshole, in which case I'm sure Sister Mina will have absolutely no problem putting him down in rather spectacular fashion. But, we all need friends, right? So I got us a friend. We've got the genetic baseline. That's all great. But
outside, you hear the bark of car horns. On this world, they've made them all sound like animals. Ooh, get out of the way.
Yeah, I just like,
cat.
Nero rolls his eyes and he's like, Also, we got to talk to those nephews about blaring their horns late at night. It's really unsettling. In any case, Sister Mina had a run-in with Fabricator Cathane, who I honestly don't know much about, but apparently we are now known to the Fabricator and the Mechanicus here on planet. So, Sister, why don't you fill them in on your side of things there?
She just takes a deep, shaky breath, and then she's like, yes, I have something to say. And she looks at Nero and she's like, I questioned your judgment, and for that lack of faith, whatever punishment you see fit, I will go through regardless. I was given information both about the mission at hand, but also, and she takes the tiny chip out of her pocket and she puts it in the middle of the table, and she's like, this was the information given to you by your scans, and I know for the mission I should have kept it, but I wanted to show you that I trust you and I'm faithful to you, and we can face it all together.
And my eyes kind of go wide, and I just kind of wondered, that son of a bitch told me he was still waiting for the results.
Maybe we needn't create a new bunk space after all.
It was me. I didn't want you to find out there without everyone else. But I didn't want to keep it from you any longer, and I am so very sorry.
Nero's legitimately touched by this, and he just says, "Hey, sister, I know how hard keeping secrets is for you. I know how almost physically painful that is. So, it means a lot to me that you were willing to do this for me. I think that the penance for this is just having to continue to work with." Blackguards like us. You've got extension of the Emperor's will herself over here. You've got non-believer of the fallen variety over there, and then I'll just pick up the chip and be like, and whatever the fuck I am. So I'll just kind of hold the chip up and say, I got the good Mechanicus to give my brain a scan, because guys, I gotta tell you, I don't think we're playing with a whole deck here right now. But whatever's on this chip, one way or another, is going to be a problem, I think. And I'll look to Mina for confirmation that either way, this is going to be a problem.
She has sad puppy face. That's all.
Yeah.
I think Warden's hand has subtly moved to his hell pistol.
Yeah. And I'll clock that and give him a yeah, okay smile as I pull the rosette out and just hang it over my the front of my armor. And
Warden gives you a nod but doesn't move his hand, and you realize the threat is, if you're a heretic, he'll shoot Piper before you can turn her.
That's fair. Yeah. Again, Nero's doing this in the way that someone who's about to get executed spits at the guard. There's clearly if Warden wants us dead, that's just gonna happen. But anyway, he kind of holds the chip up and says, so we got a big day tomorrow. We got a rather large task ahead of us, and as far as I'm aware, we're still short a bunch of gladiators. So here's the real question: do we want whatever this bomb is to go off tonight, or do we want to have it go off tomorrow after we celebrate our second place finish?
Well, what's the bomb?
I don't know.
I mean,
but look
sister?
At her, and I'll just point at her. I'll be like, she looks like she just saw the Emperor get out of the toilet.
Why don't I have a look at that and make a more informed decision after I've viewed its contents?
Mina just looks at Nero about that. She wanted everyone to look at the same time.
Yeah, he looks at it between Piper and Seth's reaction, he just kind of shrugs and says, I mean, No. Seth, weirdly, I trust you with this, but the sister, she compromised herself pretty hard to give us this opportunity. So as much as I trust you and trust that plan, I think I trust her more. So with that, I'll just plug it into, I guess, like I'll flick on like, HDMI 2 or whatever on the Vox coder, slide it in, and as I kind of sit down and, like someone waiting for test results, kind of like cross my, steeple my fingers. I'll just say, my last film had bunnies in it. And then I'll just kind of sink back and wait for whatever the fuck this information is going to be to wash over me.
And the info flashing up on the screen, it's a collection of scans, crudely written binaric notes, and other medical ephemera. But you begin to realize with the explanations of Sister Olianne Mina that there may be a threat even more insidious than Fabius Bile.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter as Interrogator Nero Abagnale, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Piper Fairley, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Seth Corbyn, Del Borovic at Del Borovic on Twitter as Sister Olianne Mina, and our Game Master Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's show logo was created by Decapitated Markers, at Decapitated Marker on Twitter, that's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, Charles Grams, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord of Bradovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, Chet Awesome Laser, Jordan Neesmith, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Taryn Hefner, Cade Peters, Richard Cranium, Christian Mendez, Anna Zed, Eric Williams, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Great Dane, Acrix, Cameron Ezel, Grandma Likes D&D, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.